Once again, television has given me a reason to live.
Good news, everyone. It's Talking Futurama, where existing is basically all we do. I'm your host, the Deluxe Gas Princess, Bob Mackey, and this is the Talking Simpsons Patreon's chronological exploration of Futurama, who is here with me today as always.
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and you ever feel like you're only going with girls because you're supposed to?
And who's our special guest today in person?
Hey, I'm taking a break from making a pot roast. It's Nina Matsumoto.
That's right, and this month's episode is Roswell That Ends Well.
Hey, which crazy thing happening are you guys screaming about?
This episode originally aired on December 9th, 2001, and as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real-world history.
Welcome to the world of tomorrow!
Good news, Bobby. Skipping Christmas is #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. Mortal Kombat Advance is released to terrible reviews on the GBA, and meanwhile, Jak and Daxter is doing much better on the PlayStation 2.
So, skipping Christmas, was this part of the war on Christmas, the initial shots fired?
It was about taking Christmas off and going and relaxing somewhere instead of like making a big to-do for it, but then their whole town won't let them skip Christmas, and so they force them to celebrate Christmas. And yes, it did turn into the film Christmas with the Cranks, starring Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis, not to be confused with Deck the Halls, the Matthew Broderick, Danny DeVito film.
I've heard on the podcast How Did This Get Made, that's where Matthew Broderick's soul died.
Yes, that is where he said, like, this is the bottom, which again he's sort of killed a guy once.
Bob, can we skip Christmas one year?
No.
Oh.
No, we get 2 Thanksgivings now.
This is true.
Double Thanksgivings, 2 Christmas.
That's what we get for being a binational couple.
It's true.
It's Bob's American chauvinism.
Yeah.
A second Thanksgiving.
I like the one that's closer to Christmas, but I can deal with the October Thanksgiving. It's still good.
I think the timing of your guys' Thanksgiving is really weird.
It really kicks off the indulgence of it all, of the holiday season. Just like, now, okay, overeat now, and then just you slide right into Christmas.
The overindulgent holiday where you eat a ton and see your family. It's like back to back for you guys.
Oh, I skip seeing my family, and I have for the past
but
12
still,
years.
like October just makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Weigh in the comments. Which Thanksgiving do you prefer?
Well, see, we get a bunch of pumpkin decorations in October, and that's good for Thanksgiving and Halloween.
I like
Very
it.
efficient.
See, I saw it more as like your Halloween pumpkin turns into your Thanksgiving pumpkin pie, like a month later.
That's true. You can buy a pumpkin for Thanksgiving, and then we carve it for Halloween. It makes sense.
Efficient Canadians. We're all about waste in America. That's why it's in November. But yeah, Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy Advance. Didn't play it. I'm sure all of these Mortal Kombat portable ports are terrible.
I was shocked to hear there is a GBA version of Mortal Kombat. That sounds awful.
There's a Game Boy Mortal Kombat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
and a Game Gear one too, which I did own, which was, I mean, it's a Game Gear. It wasn't that good. But yeah, Mortal Kombat Advance was like exceptionally bad for its time. Like it got
imagine.
like 1 out of 10, and just like it's famously a terrible port house got handed it for just very cheap. So yes, it's Mortal Kombat fans have many things to argue about as being the worst Mortal Kombat game, but I think usually that one wins.
And Jak and Daxter, that makes me long for the days when Naughty Dog made things other than sad murder dad games. Well, they keep remaking the same ones over and over because those are like the Citizen Kane of gaming, if you will.
They're that important, Bob.
Yeah.
You should appreciate that. Yeah.
I think Naughty Dog should bring back the original mascot. Have you seen it?
I've only
the
yes.
chesty young woman.
No, that's the cheat code mascot
I'm
you
thinking of
saw.
that one.
If you
Okay.
played Rings of Power.
It's just like a poorly drawn dog that's like raiding the fridge for beer. He's drinking like dad's beer or whatever.
Oh, that guy's cool.
And they say naughty dog. That's why he's naughty, because he's stealing your beer.
I think I've said this before, but I love every game studio that started in the 90s and now is making like prestige games, but all of their names are like Insane Monkey Entertainment or like Neversoft, which is a boner joke. Like they all have these like very like edgy, funky names like Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
Even id was very was that same kind of thing. Yeah, Jak and Daxter, I only played it a teeny bit. I remember its big claim to fame was like no loading after the first load, that it was just they had built the world to be just seamless. Like you'd just run to another zone and you wouldn't load anything. But I was always more of a Clank man out of all of the Sony games.
Yeah, I like those more than like finding precursor orbs. I like having all the fun weapons of Ratchet and Clank, and I mean, every one of those games is the same, but you can play one every 5 years and you'll have fun.
I just wanted to go back to MK quickly.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Who do you like to play as?
I think Sub-Zero. He was usually my main.
I think Scorpion, because I'm bad, and the "get over here" thing is just a very cheesy thing to do to people.
I'm a Scorpion girl, so we got
Okay.
2 Scorpions, one
That's why
Sub-Zero.
we're in love.
Man, the Lin.
She shuddered at my touch when I did that.
Get away from me. That's the anti-Scorpion.
Get away from me. But yes, Nina is here. Nina Matsumoto.
Hi.
We all know her. We all love her. And she has obviously been a guest on many podcasts before. And she does our wonderful art on the Patreon. And she was last with us for Bending in the Wind.
A horrible episode.
Yeah. But you were. Go ahead.
I couldn't decide which Simpsons episode to be on. I was crippled by choice with season 3 because there's so many good episodes. And with season 13, I was like, I don't know how much insight I can bring to these episodes. But then I thought, well, last time I was on Talking Futurama, it was for an episode I hated. Now I'm on an episode I really love.
And it's probably, I'll say this now, this is probably the best Futurama episode ever made.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's ones that I think are just a little funnier, but like this is the Who Shot Mr. Burns of Futurama.
Yes.
I'd say it's like the big event. It should have been their movie. We've said it many times before.
I want to get into that when we start talking about it, because I can see like how this could have been expanded into a movie. And the other movies, I mean, we'll get to them. They're disappointing because they're not actually movies. They're 4 TV episodes that can all exist independently, but are also interdependent on each other. And it's not a great way to tell a story.
I never thought about like what my favorite episode of Futurama is. This might be in my top 5. It is really good. I don't know if it's my favorite though. Like, is it kind of weird that you consider your favorite Futurama episode, the one that you consider to be your favorite Futurama episode, is about the past?
I'm just a sucker for time travel stories.
Oh, yeah,
And
that makes sense.
I agree with Henry. It might not be the funniest one, but in terms of like storytelling and like scope and just like fun narrative tricks, I think it is like the most creative.
It's super solid.
Yeah.
I do think Time Keeps on Slipping gives me more of like a heart, like it makes me warm and fuzzy and laugh. Like this doesn't have the grab your heart and pull the tears out of your eyes kind of feel of, say, Jurassic Park or whatever, which I think we said before, maybe we'll change our minds when we actually do it, but I like Luck of the Fryish as a sad episode more than Jurassic Park, but
Fryrish. I think that's better than Jurassic Park, personally.
I'm a Jurassic Park disliker, let's say.
Jurassic Park.
I said Bark.
You said Park.
Okay, well, I love Jurassic Park.
I love it too.
Nina's here to correct both of us.
That's right.
So some preliminary information for everybody up front here. This is an Emmy-winning episode, by the way. So this won the Outstanding Animated Program Emmy at the 2002 Emmys. So this is the one of 2 episodes that won an Emmy for Futurama. So the other one is in the Comedy Central era, the episode The Late Philip J. Fry, which is very good.
That one rules. That is the best Comedy Central episode.
Oh, absolutely. And it's another high concept one about time travel. That's the other one that won. So let me tell you what else was in this category in the year 2002. So it's one we just covered, and it's not very good. The Simpsons, She of Little Faith, that lost to this. Well, other things that lost are As Told by Ginger. The episode is called Lunatic Lake. King of the Hill. This is a great episode. Bobby Goes Nuts.
That's my purse.
Yeah, it's the I don't know you. It's that episode.
Such a classic.
But I don't think it's a good episode to submit for an Emmy win. Because it's all about kicking people in the balls, and there are other more emotional episodes that probably could have won over this one.
You know, I would have been okay with that one winning over this episode of Futurama.
It's really,
They're both
funny.
super good.
It's not as epic in scope and in storytelling.
It's
but,
true, yeah.
And the other one nominated was South Park, and that was the Osama Bin Laden Has Farty Pants episode, which
I'm actually shocked that one lost, but I guess South Park wasn't respected enough yet, but like that is one of their biggest episodes. Like that episode was, I remember waiting for that episode because we were all thinking, what's South Park do after 9/11? Like this is their post 9/11 episode, and I was watching it very closely, and it's a really interesting episode about how everyone in Afghanistan kind of hates America, and for good reason, but also then Cartman has a Looney Tune style battle against Osama bin Laden the entire time.
And I think it invented the Durka jihad speak that they would later use in Team America, right?
Yes.
This episode?
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
That's, and it's an interesting thing they do in that ep because they actually did hire what sound to be native speakers to play the not cartoonish Afghani citizens that are in the episode. But then when Osama bin Laden talks, that is just Trey Parker doing Durka jihad voice.
He's a master of accents, just
sure
like Hank
is.
Azaria.
Yeah.
Has South Park won an Emmy?
They've won several at this point.
Really?
Yeah, they're now respected. They're now an institution.
And that episode has the joke, I hope they don't have a Taliban.
Oh, right.
By good old Tally.
That was probably the best joke in that episode. More preliminary stuff. So on the DVD, there are 2 commentaries. One is a regular one recorded before the Emmy win.
And J. Stewart Burns calls it.
Oh, he does? Okay,
At the
yeah.
start, he calls it. It's such a great mind F because he says the Emmy winning episode. And I was like, yeah, he's right. They won the Emmy. But then Cohen goes, obviously, we're recording this before the Emmys happen. And so we're probably wrong in that prediction. I was like, wow, how rare is it on a commentary somebody actually correctly predicts the future on that?
And the other one was recorded after the Emmys and after the win, and it's more focused on animation. It's not voice actors screwing around. Even Matt Groening says up front, it's like, it's not a bunch of goof-offs making a bunch of like lewd jokes. It's like a serious conversation about the animation, but still lots of fun jokes. Claudia Katz is on it. You rarely hear from her. Rich Moore is on it. I think it's David Cohen and also Matt Groening too.
And Scott Vanzo.
Scott Vanzo, yes.
Yeah,
Talking about all the 3D effects that went on in this episode, the polygonal animation and everything.
Oh, I actually didn't know about this secret commentary. By the way, thanks for censoring for me, Henry.
Yes, yeah.
My poor freaking ears can't handle the profanity.
Her sody pop is too cold.
I'm a dirty. I talk to, especially South Park gets me in a dirty talking mood, especially. But yeah, that secret commentary. That's the fourth one on it. You got the fourth audio track. It's really interesting. It makes me wish they did more because they're talking to mainly the Rough Draft Korea people who don't sound remote. I think they were doing them when they were like in town for some business function. And so like hearing Rich Moore talk about when directing this episode, like working out of Korea and like in the Seoul Korea office, and getting in faxes back then for layouts and all that was really cool.
That was before Zoom and before Skype and all that stuff.
We need to hear from the animators more in these commentaries.
I agree.
And this is a great looking episode.
Yeah, none of the Korean. It would be really great to hear a Korean artist once talk about working on The Simpsons.
And I mentioned this before in previous podcasts, I believe, but so this is the December debut of Broadcast Season 4. We're
Right.
kind of done talking about broadcast versus airing because at this point they're all mixed up. So Broadcast Season 3 ended in May of 2001 with I Dated a Robot, which means basically nearly 7 months passed before between new episodes. So I remember going to the mall, coming back home, eating dinner, and realizing there's a new Futurama on? What happened? And it was like an amazing treat because it had been 7 months, and I assume like I was following like news groups and stuff, and I knew that there were episodes Fox was sitting on. I just didn't know when they would air, and this was a 7-month break. Yeah.
That's so long. I blame 9/11 and also the popularity. Oh, and of course the late baseball season, which of course also delayed Simpsons and the Halloween special. That darn Yankees and their World Series win.
It's the damn Yankees.
The damn Yankees.
We're allowed to say that here. We're quoting
I'll
a
allow
title.
it.
We're quoting a title. So we can talk about how this episode begins, and of course we have our opening cartoon. The joke is fun for the whole family except Grandma and Grandpa. That's very true.
Not a non sequitur. Yeah.
No.
Another thing I liked hearing on the commentary was when they talked about how they got help from Nina's old boss for some of the designs around Roswell. Bill Morrison, a Roswell expert of some note.
I think he had a lot of research materials from his comic Roswell.
The
one non-Simpsons bongo comic about the little alien man.
Yeah, which I mean takes place in Roswell, New Mexico, and it's all about it. So yeah, I mean, and on top of that, Morrison did a ton of visual development for the first year of Futurama and all of that. So it only makes sense that they died. And I like the hearing Rich Moore go like, yeah, Bill Morrison came over from Bongo and helped us with Roswell designs.
Oh, that totally makes sense. This is totally up his alley. He loves that old timey stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how do you guys feel about, the old UFO stuff, like in these UFO conspiracies this is born out of.
Well, I was never an alien teen or an alien kid or an alien guy, but now the government admitted, UFOs are real. We don't know if intelligent life is real, but we don't know what these things are in the sky. And then like nobody cared.
Yeah.
So the mystery's out, and innocence is dead, but nobody cares anymore. But sorry.
Oh, I grew up consuming a lot of that stuff because my dad is like super into UFOs
That's
and
true.
aliens and stuff. Bob, do you remember the first time you met him? He
Yes.
says, I have a very important question for you. And you're like, yes, what is it? And he said, do you believe in UFOs? And you said yes, which is the correct answer.
I do.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they were confirmed to be real at that point, but I wanted to make him happy. But I also think, they're sure
Well,
they're real.
I definitely believe in intelligent life somewhere out there. It's arrogant to think otherwise. Did UFOs actually come to Earth, and did they abduct people? I don't know about that. That's I'm skeptical about. But my dad super believes in alien abduction and all that stuff. He actually went to like a UFO convention once in Nevada.
Oh, that's cool,
Yeah.
man.
Did he join MUFON?
What is that?
That's a UFO appreciator society.
Oh no, he didn't do that.
Okay.
But he did say he saw UFOs there, and he said he doesn't care if nobody believes him because he knows what he saw.
MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network.
Mutual.
Yes.
Okay.
Cool. Man, see,
I hear they're a bunch of freaks, though. I wouldn't.
I don't
endorse
think
them.
I don't think he's joined any kind of society.
I've said it before, but I miss those quaint old conspiracy theories of just, aliens came to Earth and then the government lied to us and they it's got to be real. There must be aliens instead of, there's a lot worse conspiracy theories now that aren't so innocent and fun about space aliens. But yeah, I mean, I certainly believe there's aliens in space. With space being so infinite, how can we be the only people that with an intelligent life? Yeah.
My dad is like super into this one lady who does like hypnotherapy for people who claim they were abducted to aliens. She puts them under like a trance, and then they can recall things that were done to them, like things aliens did to them when they were abducted.
Whoa.
And she published books about this, like interviews and stuff. And then my dad is also a translator, so he translated those books to Japanese.
Oh, that's
and
really
they've been
cool.
like published in Japan.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, man. See, I do think the X-Files helped me believe it more too, I will say, because it's very persuasive, the entire Roswell thing. Like, it's key to the story of X-Files, that Roswell was real, and that was the beginning of the plan to destroy the planet Earth at 2012, which then didn't happen, and they kind of just deal with that later.
Did you believe in all the alien alien autopsy video?
Well, Riker said it was all true. No, he said he doesn't know, but if it was, look out.
Yeah, that's
pretty crazy, huh?
No, that one I didn't believe so much, the alien autopsy videos. But then, and I just loved all of the sci-fi stuff of the 90s that was buying into it. I mean, the biggies were X-Files, Men in Black, and Independence Day. All of them were about Roswell. Like, they all had this starts at Roswell and it goes from there. So I always loved that cool stuff in it. Though I've never been to Roswell, I also had a friend who his father was really into this. This was a coworker at an old video game website, and his father was so into it. He would just he camped outside as close as you could get to Area 51. Him and his friends camped outside of there multiple times in search of the truth, but they never got they never found the truth was out there. But yeah.
I think when it came to the alien autopsy video, I wanted to believe, but I couldn't. Unfortunately,
No, it was really fake looking.
Just like Fox Mulder, you want to believe. Yeah.
But let's talk about the cartoon clip. My note on this is it's from the 1930 Bosco cartoon Congo Jazz. Enough said.
Yes.
about that.
I saw the title. I was like, I'm not going to investigate this any further.
You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, I clicked around in it. It's for a thing starring Bosco called Congo Jazz, it's not as bad as it could be.
That's what I noted, actually.
Yeah.
It's it's mostly animals.
And
Hello, folks.
Well, that's also the wiki on it said, I didn't confirm this, that it was the first Bosco where he uses his falsetto voice and not his original voice.
Yes, look up the Talk Inc. kid when you're not at work or in public.
Yes.
What is his original voice?
Well, we can't do it here.
okay.
But think
I won't investigate any further.
think of the character Buckwheat, and you're mostly there. So this episode opens. By the way, I have quite a few clips, but not as many as I thought I would get because there's a lot of action in this episode.
Yeah.
This episode begins again. If we're thinking of like if this could be a movie, this is the end of Act 1, where it's like stuff happened before this, and now this is the pivotal movement that pushes them into this new setting. And yes, the entire crew of the Planet Express, they're off into space to watch the star go supernova. And this is like a viewing of this. They're all together.
I really love that it starts with this opening shot of the new New York skyline. So you think it's going to be a regular episode on the planet, and then it just zooms into a star, and it's like, nope, this isn't in New York. We're in outer space. Just straight to it. And yeah, the Rich Moore direct. I did want to mention too that he's the supervising director of the series who doesn't always direct an episode, but it shows how much he liked this script. And he's like, oh yeah, I got to direct this one.
That's true. Yeah, he is the director again.
And then Susie Dieter mentions that she had her eyes on this one, and that Rich Moore pulled rank on her and took the episode out of her hand.
It's like everyone knew it was going to be a good episode. It's not like one of those like say Simpsons episodes where like, oh, this like Bond at the table reading, and didn't think it would be any good. And it turned out to be a classic.
Like on the commentary, Matt Groening said they held off on time travel for a long time because like if we do, we want to do it right. But I feel like I don't know what the history of seasons 3 and 4 getting picked up were, because we knew that when the show got picked up initially, it was for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
But there was never any variety story about, season 3 is picked up and season 4 is picked up. I feel like end of production season 3, they're like, we might not get a season 4. Let's just do our time travel story. And that's why they're doing it now at the end of this production season.
And they also mentioned they almost did it for Anthology of Interest that year, but because they're like, oh, we can only do time travel if it's in a wacky scene. And then they're like, oh, we can't just keep this to one act. This is way too big for that.
And Fry, he's there. He's never seen a supernova blow up before, but if it's anything like a Chevy Nova, it'll light up the night sky. So Fry, previous Chevy Nova owner. And Bender remarks that anyone who misses this will regret it for the rest of their lives. That's when Fry leaves to make popcorn.
Bender sends him on it as a prank. That naughty
Oh, yeah, he
Bender.
asked Fry to make popcorn. Sorry about that.
Yeah, which I love that popcorn technology is not improved in 1,000 years.
No, in Futurama, it's Iffy Pop, but of course, in real life, it's Jiffy Pop. I never use these. I think my mom was just thinking they would burn the house down, so they're like, that's what microwaves are for. Why would you involve a stove in the making of popcorn?
I never tried making Jiffy Pop before either. Like, I grew up with air popped popcorn with an air popping machine.
I had those.
Yeah, like I swore by that for years, but I moved recently, and for about a week or two, I did not have a microwave because I just moved, and the microwave belonged to the previous landlord before. But I wanted popcorn to watch a movie, so I opened a bag of microwave popcorn, and I made it on a pot on my stove.
Oh, wow.
And it's the best homemade popcorn I've ever had. It was really good. It really makes a difference. And I never did it again because I bought a microwave.
Yeah. I bought an air popper at the beginning of quarantine, and it has served me well for like $20.
I think I pushed you into that.
Better than microwave popcorn, I think.
It is, yeah. But still, if you can make popcorn stovetop, like, I highly recommend it.
I only briefly had one of those air poppers in when I was like 20 or something, and I just loved watching the thing spin around and spit it out. That was my favorite part with the air popper.
They just keep breaking though. That's why I stopped. Like, I went through like 2 or 3 of them in like the past decade.
It's still going strong 2 years later.
Tell me what brand you have.
After the show. I actually forget.
You know what else is still going strong more than 2 years in? That my air fryer still working good.
Can you make popcorn in it?
No, you can't do
well,
that.
then,
fried popcorn,
I guess an air fryer can't do everything.
So this Iffy Pop, instead of putting it on the stove, Fry puts it in the microwave because it says "do not put in microwave." He tears that warning label off and laughs like devilishly to himself, as if removing the label will remove the actual danger.
So I, as a kid, did learn a meddle in the microwave lesson early. I was like 7. Nothing happened except for some cool lightning. But basically, I must have seen it wouldn't have been Simpsons, but I must have seen something that showed you could put an action figure in the microwave and, watch it melt or whatever. And so this one was probably the worst one that I could have done it with, because it was a RoboCop that also was made to have like cap poppers on the back, so it had a big metal knob on the back, and I put it in there like, okay, RoboCop, let's see what happened. And I just saw a little bit of lightning, and I was like, huh. And I told my mom, like, hey, why the microwave makes lightning? And she's like, you put metal in there. so that's when I learned my lesson.
I just assumed that the house would explode.
Yeah, well,
So I never touched it.
The only thing I've ever destroyed in a microwave accidentally was a mug where if you poured hot water in it, it would play Happy Birthday.
oh,
And you know what? I'd say good riddance.
it sounds cute.
It's annoying. I really hate the Happy Birthday song.
Oh, that's true. Yes,
It's my least favorite song in the world.
So this microwave accident is the catalyst for what happens next, because the supernova is exploding and red light is enveloping the ship, and the Iffy Pop in the microwave is making blue light envelop the ship, and those two meet, and that's when we get time travel.
What
folks.
a cool shot.
Yeah.
I also love Fry's like, hey, what smells like blue?
Yes.
Great
Fry's got
line.
a few good lines, and also, which crazy thing are you guys yelling about?
So, this episode is a lot like several Star Treks as well.
We just watched one last night, the Deep Space Nine episode, Little Green Men. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one we were thinking of.
That one. Okay, I was thinking of, well, definitely in even in original Star Trek, they always wanted it to be an accident. So they're like, no, there's got to be, fly around the sun, and it's got to be this thing to actually go back in time. They don't just have like ready-made time machines. But I was also thinking, I was thinking of Little Green Men, but that's a good one. I was thinking of the Season 5 finale of Next Generation, Time's Arrow. I was thinking of that a lot.
I was bringing that up. That's where they find like Data's head.
Yes, yeah.
That was discovered like 500 years before they made first contact or something like that.
Yeah.
In Little Green Men, it's very tied to this.
Yeah.
In that Quark and his brother and the brother's son, they end up in Roswell.
Oh, okay.
It's very, very good. Also, Charles Napier is in it, playing an army general.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
Duke Phillips himself is in the episode.
Yeah, they accidentally travel back in time, and they think the Roswell people think they're Martians, and they're trying to like figure out why they're there. Like, are we trying to invade our planet? And they're like, no, we just wanted to go to Starfleet Academy.
So this is Time Zero plus Little Green Men. This is that
Sort of,
combined,
yeah. It reminded me of those two episodes.
So when this microwave accident happens, the ship glows with energy, disappears from the sky. We see it plunging through this tunnel of pulsing blue energy, and we get like it was a 2001: A Space Odyssey shot of the professor with you can see his eyes. It's reflected in his glasses, and then the digital clock on the ship starts ticking backwards, and then we're just speeding through a bunch of clocks as we go through this tunnel. And I don't know if that's a reference to something, because I was like, is this a time tunnel thing? But there aren't actually floating clocks in the time tunnel.
Yeah.
I just recently did a time travel story, Sparks 3.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Future Perfect. It's
In
about time
stores
travel.
now.
Yeah, it came out in April. So I got to come up with what a time travel portal looks like. And I just kind of went with what I think is most recognizable form, which is like this. It's just a bunch of like a wavy void with a bunch of clocks. In my case, though, I was inspired by the time traveling visuals in Doraemon, because that's the comic I grew up with. And that's there's a lot of time traveling in that, because it's about a robot cat from the future, and when they go through the time tunnel, it is exactly like this, with like the clocks everywhere.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, I didn't know it was a Doraemon.
So that might be a very early depiction of what time travel looks like.
Yeah, maybe like the H.G. Wells Time Machine movie adaptation from like the 50s or 60s. Who knows? This all started somewhere, because like in the game Day of the Tentacle, when you go through time, it is a swirling blue vortex as well. So they're all referencing something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And in Treehouse 5, Homer also goes through a time vortex just like this, also surrounded by clocks. Yeah. But I love that these clocks, they up the joke from Treehouse 5 of that these clocks have physical shape and can be taken on like a bunch of water.
Yeah, you could be knee deep in clocks.
I also, speaking of Professor's eyes, I love the shot of Leela adjusting his eyes. He says focus, and then when she does it, he like smiles like thanks. Like he's very thankful for it.
He's also very blind.
Yes.
So they leave this vortex, emerge from a swirling red vortex in space. Everyone's recovering from the damage, and a bell dings, and Fry's like, oh, my popcorn's done. And he goes to check it, and just like an ear of corn sticking out of a little popping tray. So
I love, he says, it's less pop than ever. That's a great line.
And good line from Leela. I don't know what's happened, but we've taken on a lot of clocks. So we pull back to see everyone is knee deep in clocks, and we find out that something strange is going on in our first clip.
Why is there so little traffic around Earth?
And what's this layer of ozone? That's never been there before.
Such noises.
Oh no! There's There's no global positioning signal. Navigation is failing.
We're gonna crash!
Not if I can help it. Oh, I guess I can't. Everyone put on your seatbelts.
Those things cost more lives than they save.
And then he immediately gets shot out the windshield.
Bender is just the type of guy who would refuse to wear a seatbelt. That's exactly who
I
he
mean,
is.
I've heard that, like, as a kid, you would hear, like the 2 instances in which someone was trapped because of a seatbelt, and that's their reason why.
It's more likely you'll be dead without it. But
Yes.
everyone
Everyone was mad at Ralph Nader in 2002, but he saved, I don't know, probably millions of lives at this point.
Yeah, and then those people who didn't die, they grew up to be Republican voters, part of his plan to get George Bush elected.
It's all coming together.
It's good that they have seatbelts at all. Like, there's always a joke observation about Star Trek. Like, why don't they have seatbelts? Yeah. Whenever the ship gets rocked, they're all just like jostled
Shaking back
everywhere.
and forth.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I think it was like the first couple seasons of TNG, wouldn't they go like battle stations, and then they'd put like almost like a tray in front of their laps that I remember it's like their armrests extended. It wasn't a seatbelt, but it was almost like it was locking them into place.
Maybe it just wasn't fun to see that. It's more fun to see them get knocked around.
Just,
I mean,
just
I love
actors
that.
stumbling around.
Yeah, exactly.
As the camera turns.
Now, I feel like I've seen early social media posts of like somebody locking the camera instead of how it was edited, with the camera moving all around, so you can just see the actors flinging themselves all about, which is so much fun.
Every Star Trek should do that, I think. The actors just stumbling around the stage.
And you know that Felix clock? My mom loved those Felix clocks. I had a Garfield version of the Felix tail wagging clock,
But it's technically not Felix, though, right? It's
No,
just a
it's-
generic cat.
It's made to cash in on Felix's fame.
yeah.
it is.
It's not licensed or anything, though.
No, I call it a Felix clock too, because that's what my mom calls it. But yeah, it's not the official license. And you know, when there was that big fire in 2018, that my mom and stepdad were very lucky their house was not really damaged in it, unlike pretty much every neighbor of theirs. The one thing that got really burned was the Felix clock. It got melted and warped. I bought her a new one that Christmas.
I'm glad that was the only fire in Northern California.
Yes.
There was never another one ever again.
I have to be very specific of like the November 2018 one in Paradise, California. That's the specific one I'm talking
I was
about.
actually visiting Nina for the first time
Yes.
during those wildfires.
I remember your flight back here was delayed because of the extreme smoke, wasn't it?
And that's how we fell in love.
That's true. Yeah, it gave Bob extra days to ponder whether he should confess his feelings to me or not.
So thank you, fire.
So we lose a Felix cat clock, but we gain love
And countless lives.
Oh yes, that too. Yeah.
So, yes, we see Bender's parts scattered across the landscape. Fry asks Bender's head, "Are you okay?" And then Bender tries moving his feet. And then we cut away to his feet far away, his little foot cups wiggling in the sand.
Yeah, it's adorable. You know, though, what is this? Some magic regenerating robot head? Because his head is pretty banged up when Fry picks it up. And by the time they get back in the ship, his head's back to normal.
Maybe he knocks the dents out on the way over. Who knows?
Okay. Also, that bit about the ozone layer being back, this was something I read in 2021. This is kind of like those other stories. I was like, oh yeah, acid rain. What happened to that? According to a 2021 scientific journal reporting I read, and this was multiple places, the ozone actually has recovered quite a bit in the past couple decades. Like, it's hardly the world's only problem weather and climate change wise, but we actually have kind of curtailed the ozone layer going away.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll wreck the Earth in other ways.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I remember in the early stages of the pandemic when like no one could commute anymore and we were all trapped inside, there was that nature is healing meme.
Ugh, I hate that.
Where it actually pollution was decreasing because there weren't like a billion cars on the road constantly. So
And now all the middle managers have said, get back in those cars and drive back to the office.
hey, 1 million dead Americans means a lot less pollution for the rest of the world.
Boy.
Sorry to get dark there. But Leela has a plan. The plan is Zoidberg, pick up the pieces. Everyone else, take 5.
Zoidberg is not offended, and he makes a game of it.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so great that his game is not that that an entire audience is cheering him on, but he's not pretending picking up trash is anything else. That the audience is cheering on him picking up trash.
The crowd goes wild, and he's using Bender's arm as like a trash grabber. It's very, very cute.
Yeah.
And this is when a military convoy shows up in the middle of the night as Zoidberg is picking this up, and he replies, "What is?"
It's a good word. Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not what the, it's what is.
What is?
And the convoy drives into this military base, and the government finds an important discovery.
General, in all my years of covering top secret discoveries with sheets, I've never dramatically revealed anything as shocking as this. Dun, dun, dun. The debris from an alien spaceship.
Son, I think I can safely say,
As you can see, 1947 is going to be an eventful year for the town of Roswell, New Mexico.
I do enjoy how on the nose that line is.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, yes, I know where we live. I know where we are. It's great.
He sounds like way too much like John DiMaggio, I think. It's kind
Yeah.
of distracting. I kind of wish they got Charles Napier now.
Yeah, it would have been good. Yeah.
I did like Dave Herman's scream in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
You know, that's the ups and downs with John DiMaggio, that he's such a great voice actor, but they give him too many like one-off roles that, because, you know, Billy West and Dave Herman can't take them all, but he is more distracting than them in a minor role like that.
You know, to bring this back to Star Trek yet again, one thing I loved about that episode is everyone kept smoking like all the time.
Yes,
I
and-
kind of wish he did that in this episode.
And Quark
too.
was disgusted.
Oh yeah, there's like one shot of guys smoking, but it should be everybody smoking all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, I think Quark was like, they ingest poison and on purpose?
Yeah.
I could sell them everything.
Quark's the best. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And he's I also, what a great Cohen style line of General. In all my years of covering top secret discoveries with sheets, I've never dramatically revealed anything as shocking as this. Like, what just a great series of words. I just love that.
These characters are great. We move to a team of scientists. They're, investigating the crash site. They're examining Bender's parts. There's a cute little joke with one scientist is holding Bender's arm while it's pickpocketing the other scientist. I don't know where it's going to put that wallet.
Yeah,
but Bender, even when separated from his body parts, he can't resist, stealing.
He'll instantly be caught, but that's a problem for later. Bender can't resist theft.
This is like probably the most damaged Bender has ever been in the history of this show. And the last time I was on an episode of Talking Futurama, it was where he got scratched up a little bit and he couldn't move his body anymore.
Yeah.
He's like dismembered and he can still move around.
Yeah, boy, he's recovered from this. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they fixed him better after the last time though also in that episode, they don't even explain how he gets back the motion
right.
of his body. He just starts moving again.
The power of Beck gave him his
I'm just going to keep complaining about that episode. It was so bad.
It's okay. We don't like it that much. But we cut to the inside of the ship. The professor is reading the high-precision digital chronograph to discover where they are in time. And they are in July 9th, 1947. And we see the chronograph has changed into a pinup calendar, which in that episode, Little Green Men, when it's revealed like where they are in time, it is a pinup calendar.
Oh, man.
We see the pinup calendar in that Star Trek episode.
Oh, yeah, with Rita Hayworth on it.
In this case, I think it's Betty Grable.
It is.
This
Yes.
one, yeah.
If you look up 1943 20th century promotional image of Betty Grable, you will see this exact pose, the proud back pose of her.
And the next page is a sexy cowboy.
We're getting ahead, but I love that joke so much. Like there is an equal opportunity pinup calendar back in 1947 with sexy men and women alternating months.
I think Rich Moore asks, who is this calendar for?
It's either for bisexual single people or a couple that have opposite gender. It's sharing.
Now it's your turn. August is your turn. So our next clip here, we learn about time travel.
Wait a second. You mean we traveled through time?
Die? Some idiot must have put metal in the microwave.
Yo.
And the microwave radiation, combined with the gravitons and graviolis from the supernova, blasted us through time itself.
Have you seen today's news?
High school gym renovations on schedule? What a load!
No, over here. Flying saucer captured.
That's no flying saucer. That's my ass!
My God. This means the flying saucer that crashed in Roswell was us.
And the alien they captured was...
Hello. Yeah. So what are you guys doing tonight? I'm up for whatever.
So this is accurate. So the July 8th, 1947 edition of the Roswell Daily Record featured the headline, RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. The Futurama version is just flying saucer capture, which is much better.
And that's Jesse Marcel, the head intelligence officer who initially investigated and recovered some of the debris from the Roswell site. That's who the photo is of. And yeah, the story back then was, after that headline, the next day they say, oh no, it was a weather balloon. And then in 1994, the government took that back, and then their new story was, actually, it was a spy device we were testing out to use on the USSR, and we couldn't admit it was a spy device because then it was, it would get us in trouble. But
in the Star Trek episode, once the Ferengis escape, they're like, oh, let's just say it was a weather balloon.
But it was Charles Napier, so you believed it.
Yeah, no, I'd still definitely believe that the government would say all of these things if they got a UFO. They'd be like, well, we can't tell America it's a UFO because it really would disrupt everything in the world, and so let's just lie like that.
It makes me think like Joe Biden probably knows about every UFO and has met an alien, but he immediately forgot about it because he's 90 years old.
I hate to reference Joe Rogan.
Oh no! No!
But one thing he would do often when having on, he did this with Bernie Sanders. He said, if you get elected, can you find out if there are aliens in Area 51, and will you promise to tell me? And Bernie Sanders says, okay, I will tell you if I find out. I mean, that's a great bit in Independence Day as well, where the president goes like, what? Area 51's not real. And then a general goes like, no, it is. There is an alien there. And then Bill Pullman's like, why didn't you tell me?
Well, they hide all the good stuff in Area 52. We've learned that.
I also, the term graviolis, as I just love that. Like, it's ravioli, but for gravity.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah.
But Act 2 starts. We're in the ship. The professor is telling Fry and Bender that they tore the universe a new space hole, and it's clenching up fast. And they have to go back through the space hole in, let's say, exactly 24 hours.
Whoa, so great.
So,
the music sting there.
He puts a ticking clock on the rest of the story. So it's funny how, like, immediately when he decides it's time to escape, we have 24 hours to go.
It's not carefully calculated at all. He's like, oh, no, let's say 24 hours.
It's the most exciting period of time, I think.
I do love that they set up Zoidberg for a perfect Lenny and Squiggy. Hello, but it must be hello. Yeah, but
it is a perfect cut to another scene joke.
But yeah, exactly 24 hours. It has to be that. You know what? When Leela says, I can get this fixed in 10 hours, like, you've got 8. That's such a great, a line in a tense war movie or whatever. Obi-Wan Kenobi on that show, they just had a line like that in it. Like, somebody says, we gotta fix the door. It'll probably take me 3 hours. You've got 1. That's what Obi-Wan
in this
Kenobi
case,
says.
She's fixed everything but the cup holder.
Yes.
So they could just go.
Please, Henry, this is a Star Trek podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
None of these wars.
There has yet to be time travel in Star Wars. Unless there was something in an expanded universe thing.
I'm sure 40% of the books involve time travel.
I know I read a comic that was specifically said to be not canon when even they published it, but it did involve time travel. It was the famous one, have you heard about, of Han Solo meeting Indiana Jones? Have you heard of that one?
No.
Basically, the short version is Millennium Falcon gets stuck in a similar time space hole, like in this episode, falls down to Earth in 1938, crashes, and then Han Solo dies in it, but Chewbacca lives. Chewbacca escapes, and then Dr. Henry Jones, the explorer, finds the crash. He thinks that Chewbacca is the Sasquatch, and then he finds Han Solo's bones.
So this is a comic book.
This was in a real comic book approved by Lucasfilm.
Before the Disney buyout.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
I assume so.
Yeah.
But the plan is Farnsworth and Leela will buy a new microwave they need to time travel. Meanwhile, Fry and Bender will sneak into the army base to get back Bender's body.
And I love that it's all just set up for Fry to basically say, I once had a grandpa named Enos.
That's right. It sounds like the beginning of a dirty limerick.
That's why I always figured his name was Enos. I mean, it's a perfect name for the man who is his grandpa or isn't.
It's no worse than Gomer. We'll talk more about him later, but let's hear about the dangers of time travel.
Hey, and while we're on the base, I'll visit my grandfather, Enos. He was stationed at Roswell.
Your grandfather? Stay away from him, you dim-witted monkey. You mustn't interfere with the past. Don't do anything that affects anything, unless it turns out you were supposed to do it. In which case, for the love of God, don't not do it.
Got it.
If, for example, you were to kill your grandfather, you'd cease to exist.
But existing is basically all I do.
What is your purpose here?
All right, officer, I'll move along.
What the general means is, why did you come to Earth?
Not a day goes by I don't ask myself the same question.
It's like he's starting a one-man show.
He really enjoys meeting new people, Zoidberg.
Nobody else listens to him in the year 3000, so he's getting all this attention. He loves it. But
He's been passed out in public before and dealt with authorities.
Yeah, it's like, I'll move along.
Yes. But yeah, they address the grandfather paradox directly with literally a grandfather, which Farnsworth describes the grandfather paradox, which I looked into it, and it's been part of science fiction since at least like the 20s in any time somebody wrote about a time travel story, but there's no named inventor for it.
It's a good mislead for both the audience and Fry, because Fry thinks my goal is to now keep my grandfather alive, and the audience thinks, this is where the story is going. Like, Fry has to protect his grandfather and keep him alive, but really we know where this is going. And yes, when we get to it, I'll tell you, like, this was a huge surprise to me as a viewer. I was not expecting this disgusting turn in the story.
No. But, I did read about current theories about the grandfather paradox, and there's an interesting 2020 scientific paper called Reversible Dynamics with Closed Time-like Curves and Freedom of Choice, which basically implies kind of what this episode does, which is that even if you were to go back in time and kill your grandfather, you would then just create a new paradox that makes the same event happen, and that the timeline always wants to remain the same. And so if you change something, then say you just become your own grandfather, or something else causes it to happen. It's more that the timeline doesn't like to be changed and fights back at you if you try to change it.
Oh wow, I want to go back in time and kill my grandfathers right now.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I'll snap that old man's neck.
It'll be easy.
As a young man.
I'll come back in time with guns he's never seen.
So we cut to the army base. Fry is in his undies behind a truck. He's spraying on military fatigues with some all-purpose spray, and there's actually one deleted scene that shows how Fry got on the base, and I have a clip of that.
Halt! What's that you're carrying, soldier?
It's a communist detector.
Beep, 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 beep. Just because I hang out in coffee houses doesn't make me a communist.
So there you go. So, I mean, we don't really need to know how they got onto the base, but it is weird that they just were able to sneak on like a man in a robot head.
It's very relaxed base. Yeah. I also like Fry spraying the clothes onto himself, not unlike Amy's spray-on bikini, that Fry walked all the way there in his underpants and then sprayed it on. Like, it would seem like better to do it in the ship instead of getting there just in your underwear.
Yeah, I guess he walked all the way there in his underwear.
Yes,
yeah. I wasn't even thinking of that. That's great. So yeah, this is when we get our Gomer Pyle USMC jokes. 2001, the last time you could ever do this again, because when they get on the base, Fry hears Enos, and of course that is basically the parody of Sergeant Carter. Pyle, yes. If you've seen the show,
Shazam!
Yeah, he had a adversarial relationship with his commanding officer, although Gomer Pyle loved Sergeant Carter.
Yeah.
And didn't understand that Sergeant Carter hated him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned a whole lot about Gomer Pyle from the Gomer Pyle episode of our pals' gayest episode ever, which was very good. The one where Gomer is pretending to be, he's writing love letters to the Tsar.
Yes, it's basically Bart the Lover 30 years earlier, essentially.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I will say I love Enos and Gomer Pyle, and his sweet Southern homosexual accent it basically was, my friends made fun of me that I had that kind of accent, and I battled it most of my life. It's even though I love that accent. It's so nice and sweet.
Well, I wish you kept your accent.
I know, but kids can be cruel, and they all make fun of you for having that accent. So you eventually Just shove it down, way down.
You know,
Bring it back out.
Gomer Pyle said Shazam, but he also said golly, which is why Enos says gadzooks.
I love his gadzooks. Cut my gums up something fierce. Yeah, it's actually very easy for me to do that accent. But.
So Fry is spying on his grandfather, and we see his very strange commanding officer saying, "I want that toilet bowl so clean I can eat off it because I intend to."
He demands at 1,200 hours he get that, and then we see the next day he's eating out of that toilet. He is a strange man.
He wants his lunch placed in the latrine, so this guy's a real sicko.
Yeah, food should not enter the bathroom at any point.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered this.
Henry.
Yes. Hey, you know what? I don't do it no more. It was part of my rebellious 20s.
I've seen some chafing dishes in your bathroom. What's going on in there? Anyway,
but I also like that it then turns into it's a little Back to the Future moment too.
Yeah.
Him trying to save him from the Jeep is like Marty actually saving his dad from getting hit by the car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Except in this case, the Jeep never would have hit him because we see it slowly approaching, and as Fry tackles his grandfather, it slowly turns a long way away from where it would have hit him. So the Jeep was never on the path to hit him or going fast enough to kill him.
I'd say for the most part, they pretty much avoided making too many Back to the Future references. Like the whole grandmother thing is kind of skirting that line, but for the most part, I think they figured there's been so many parodies and jokes made of Back to the Future already.
Yeah,
let's try to come up with something more original.
Yeah. This is really the only one I was like, I guess, yeah, but you're right. The sexual dynamics of the incest stuff is also a bit of that, but I like too that you can see that they wrote on a board okay, Fry kills his grandfather. How do we innocently have Fry kill his own grandfather? And so they have to go to such extremes that Fry, through his idiocy, is trying so hard to not kill Enos that he is going to kill Enos eventually, including a pile of rusty bayonets.
He's destined to do the nasty and the pasty, as we learn in a future episode.
Right, that's right.
But yeah, let's meet Enos in our next clip.
Are you crazy? You almost got yourself run over.
I did? Then I sure am lucky you knocked me onto this pile of rusty bayonets.
Fry, stop interfering with history. I don't want to have to memorize a lot of new kings when I get back.
I had no choice. I was about to not exist. I could feel myself fading away, like Greg Kinnear.
Well, thanks, soldier. I'm off to make Sarge's lunch. Handling raw chicken, best part of the job. Finger licking good.
That's it! This place is too dangerous. We gotta get you out of here. Everything's gonna be all right, Dad.
Well, gadzooks, I better ask Sarge.
No time! Run! Run to safety!
It's a very funny joke. They run into the bombing range, formerly minefield, so they're being exploded from below and above.
That's great. Yes.
And we didn't mention it in too much detail, but Gomer Pyle, of course, and Jim Nabors, obviously very, very gay. Got married late in life, but he was always pretty much closeted until the 2000s, I think.
I mean, it was when he married his partner. That was when he came out, and that was when marriage was legal. This was, I agree with our pals Drew and Glenn on that podcast a bit, who you both want to be happy for this guy, but also it's he's getting to, on some level, you're a little annoyed that a guy who could have done something to help the cause for marriage equality and gay rights did nothing, and then gets to take advantage of it late in life after not helping. But he's an old queen. It was hard for me to hate him too much, and he died pretty soon after, so it's hard to not even be that mad. But I
guess, and the one joke they don't do in this episode is the joke, and they did this in The Simpsons as well, the parody, where he's got this I'm just a big goofball, but he's got this baritone, beautiful singing voice.
Yes, yeah.
But they don't do that here. And then he would go on to record albums and stuff. Jim Nabors, of course. I don't even think we said Jim Nabors. Did we say Jim Nabors?
Yeah. Enos too. I like that he's about how obvious Gomer Pyle is as also being gay, but it was in the 60s that if somebody said they weren't gay, then it was just he's just a sweet man. Why are you trying to attack this man by calling him a sodomite? He has a sweet accent and he's nice. And same with Liberace, was just waiting to find the right girl.
And a summer came around, and when I was a kid, I would watch, instead of 9 hours of TV a day, I watched like 13. And every morning, like there was just a block of old TV shows. So I've probably seen all of Gomer Pyle like 2 or 3 times in my life.
Man,
yeah,
I didn't see it as much. I did like his episodes on Andy Griffith, though. I love Jim Neighbors, but I actually, as far as a guy on Andy Griffith's show, I actually preferred Goober to Gomer.
Oh, come on now.
What,
George Goober Lindsay?
George Goober
He's a heck.
But he's got that Jughead hat.
Is that all it takes for you? Just the Jughead hat?
But also that, man, what a slight on Greg Kinnear there, huh, guys?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm a big Greg Kinnear fan.
Yeah, I am too. And we just saw him in a rotten movie. We watched You've Got Mail.
I can see why people like it, but
Yeah.
it's pretty twisted.
But in when they wrote this in the year 2000, I'm guessing late 2000, he was on the downswing. Like
I guess so. Fry would have only seen As Good as It Gets, You've Got Mail, and Mystery Men. And I guess his career was already kind of taking a downturn.
Yeah,
by
Mystery
that
Man
point.
was a cry for help, I think.
I like Mystery Man. I have a soft spot for it. Yeah.
He's like Superman.
He's
in
very
it.
good.
He's so good, and I like him in You Got Mail. He has a fine job as. They call it the Baxter in the movie, the Baxter.
Michael Showalter?
Michael Showalter
Yeah.
calls it that, yeah.
That movie violates its own premise. I don't think it's as clever as it wants to be. I have problems with the Baxter.
I love the Baxter.
Reevaluate the Baxter in the year 2022.
Well, no, well, this spoils the Baxter here, but the secret of the Baxter is that Paul Rudd is the Baxter in the Baxter, but we're seeing the Baxter from the viewpoint of the guy who's the Baxter in the other movie that stars Jason Throw in it. So we're seeing the Baxter from that movie, but the Baxter of the Baxter is Paul Rudd, who loses Michelle Williams to Michael Showalter.
It's been 17 years. I just want Michael Showalter and Michael Ian Black to be funny again. And I think we've lost one of them.
Showalter, he's now in, he didn't get nominated, but his movie got nominated for an Oscar and won an Oscar.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He did the Eyes of Tammy Faye, or not Eyes, the Tammy Faye movie with Andrew Garfield in it, not
Spider-Man?
I mean, he is a Spider-Man. Yeah.
Greg Kinnear played a gay man in As Good as It Gets back when it was risky to do so.
That's right, yeah.
He was told by his agent, like, you're putting your career at risk by doing this. He's like, I don't care.
And I'm sure it did hurt his career.
I think it did, yeah.
I think so. He's too good at it.
Greg Kinnear, underrated. I never saw his Talk Soup run. I got E too late, but I watched his post-Conan show.
Wow.
Like the 1:30 to 2 a.m. Talk show.
Late night?
I forget what it was called. I think it was called Later with Greg Kinnear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was like a really generic name like that.
It should have been called like Too Late.
Yes. It was the same slot that was taken over by Total Request Live's Carson Daly later in time. But Greg Kinnear I like a lot. Yeah, he was really great in As Good as It Gets. Even though I think his character is almost written. I feel like somebody told James L. Brooks, do not write this character to be a gay man who then falls in love with Helen Hunt, like who's fixed by falling in love with a woman, because it edges up to that in the movie.
Have her fall in love with a 65-year-old man. It's natural.
That's normal.
Yeah.
But in the next...
she makes him want to be a better man.
Yeah.
That's the goal of every woman.
And you know what? She drives Greg Kinnear to be a great artist again, though, which, hey, at least, her nude body pulled that off.
I saw many stills of her nude body back on the internet.
Were you browsing Mr. Skin too?
No.
You're on Mrs. Skin.
As I recall, Helen Hunt shows the top of her buttocks in that, I believe.
No, you see his side boob. You see unclosed side boob.
Okay.
PG-13 side boob in there.
By the way, it's June 16th today. Greg Kinnear's birthday is tomorrow.
Whoa,
Happy birthday, Greg.
Turning 59 tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Live it up, Greggy.
If we're also talking Greg Kinnear in sexy movies, he's the year after this joke at his expense, he stars in one of his riskiest roles to date, Autofocus.
That's right. That's a great and really dark movie.
Does it
too.
autofocus on his schlong? Is that what happens?
No, but I mean, it's about he plays what was that actor?
Is he Bob Crane?
Yeah, he's Bob Crane, and who was a sex freak and he's befriends. Oh, it's such a great movie. Willem Dafoe plays his sex freak buddy who shows him how to do like film sex tapes. Like he was turns out Bob Crane was on the cutting edge of filming sex tapes in like 1964.
That's right. He was the star of Hogan's Heroes.
Yes, yeah. And I don't want to spoil the end of the movie, but it's not a happy one.
I mean, Wikipedia Bob Crane, find out.
Don't spoil the movie by reading Bob Crane's Wikipedia page.
So we cut to Zoidberg being examined to see what food, if any, the creature eats. And there's just a bunch of food out on the table in front of him. He thinks it's, a buffet. So he thinks it's like a restaurant. It's like, oh, if only I had any money, my wallet with me. And they have to tell him it's free. And then you hear him screaming. And we see food hitting the window. We see his face like smashed against the glass, licking the food off. Is that an Independence Day reference?
It is.
Okay.
That's how Brent Spiner dies in Independence Day. He's killed in the room, and then the monster that ate him squeaks on the window.
Then why is he alive in the sequel?
I haven't seen the sequel. He is bad. I know they unkill him in the sequel, but I guess they say you don't exactly see a body. You just assume he's dead because he's not in the movie anymore after that in the first one. And then he's in the sequel like, actually, I'm fine.
So it's like a Dr. Ian Malcolm situation.
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah. Which, but yeah, it's
too popular with fans.
But double references to Brent Spiner in this episode. But,
I like it.
Man, the image of his face pushing the grease around with his tendrils, like what a great gross shot. Yeah.
He only eats garbage. This is the first like real food he's had in a while.
This also saves on animation.
Yes, yeah. You just see it fling against the wall. Yeah, I love it.
So we're at Sears Roebuck now, which is offering a free girdle with the purchase of tractor, just showing you the amount of items Sears sold at one point, just the vast array of items you could buy there.
You could buy a saxophone.
You could buy a house from Sears and have it delivered, yes, and build it yourself. I mean, this is not a joke. You could actually do that. And those houses really still hold up. So I love this joke where the professor is wearing a zoot suit and Leela is wearing like a poodle skirt, because if you're thinking of like how we view the past, would any of us know like how did fashion change between like 1020 and 1070? No,
like I actually hate having to draw anything historical, because if you're even a few decades off, your work may end up looking like this to those who know history better. And I'm sure I've been off by like 100 years in some period stuff that I've drawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have it bad enough watching something that's set in the 80s and I go like, wait a minute, that song wasn't then, was it? And I look that up.
Yeah, I even get like 80s and 90s stuff mixed up sometimes.
I think the Stranger Things show works pretty hard to not to do that. I think they actually are pretty good at keeping track of that stuff. But our pal Scott Gardner had a great online sketch about this kind of thing too, where it's basically like it's a history video from like 500 years in the future about the Beatles and how they get everything wrong about the Beatles, like when the Beatles conquered America. Like it's a great sketch. Just look it up. But yeah, also that they bring back Axe versus Ask, like they think how somebody talked in 1999 is how they talk in 1947.
I don't know if it's consistent here, but let's hear them buy a microwave in our next clip.
Fry's from around this time. I'll talk like him. Yo, Holmes, we're looking for a microwave oven.
Microwave? Never heard of that brand, sweetheart. What you want is the Deluxe Gas Princess. This beauty has 4 broilers, a casserole indicator, a fold-out ironing board, and down here, a foot-soaking tub. Since as a woman, you'll be standing in front of it all day.
Oh, I'm sorry. Now I'll ask you again. Where can we find a microwave?
Sir, your wife's hysterical, so I'll address this to you. This oven is lightning fast. It takes only 5 hours to cook a roast.
Ooh, that's good news. You really don't cook enough roasts, Leela. Oh, women.
Actually, I think when Leela says, let me axe you again, I think she's reverting to the modern way of speaking, because as we learned a year ago, axe replaced ask in the English language.
Yeah, and same with their outdated senses of modesty as well. Yeah. These are some good sexist jokes about how sexist things were in the 40s. That's a good guy. So since as a woman, you'll be standing in front of it all day.
They weren't nice enough to give women a tub to soak their feet in, though, these appliances. I have some microwave history, though.
Oh, boy.
So the first commercially available microwave did come out in 1947, but it was nearly 6 feet tall. So we can either assume it came out after July, or a small town like Roswell wouldn't be selling an industrial gadget intended for restaurants or something like that. So, and it was also built by Raytheon.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
It's a walk-in microwave.
Yes.
You could have walked in there.
I think it's for executions. It's not for cooking anything.
Well, yeah, I looked into that just about microwaves. Like, They originally just used for like communication, which is why they get a dish for it in here. It was, a then at the time recent thing. Like, oh, these microwaves also can heat things up as well.
It's funny when they became more viable to just purchase. People assume like, oh, we won't have to cook anything any other way before. The microwave is not viewed as a thing used to reheat things. It was like, well, this is the oven of the future. So you would see all these like microwave cooking books and like, oh, the microwave, the gadget of the future. But then we learn like things are measurably worse when you just make them in the microwave. It's just sort of a last resort for actual cooking or reheating something that was cooked once.
That's why when I moved, I was like, oh, I don't have a microwave, but maybe I can see if I can like live without one. And Bob, you were like, no, you need to get a microwave immediately.
I lived with that one. When I moved to California in 2010, I lived with a nutball. And I was like, oh, where's your microwave? And he told me, I don't believe in microwaves. And I was like, well, I believe in them and I need them to heat food and warm up my coffee. So there you have it.
You know
folks.
what? I'm glad I caved and bought one because you know what? It's the fastest way to cook a potato.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. No,
It just takes a few minutes.
It's nice a lot of the time though. If I have the time for doing it another way, and I don't just mean in the air fryer, but I do kind of prefer it. Say if I have some leftover pizza, there's something about reheating it in the oven that I prefer. Like it's crispier instead of a big spongy, squishy thing out of the microwave.
Our household will be an oven instructions household.
Well,
but the microwave will be allowed to be used for certain things.
I'm a sicko, you know this. So I like lukewarm pizza.
I don't know about this.
So I like taking leftover pizza out of the fridge and putting in the microwave for 15 seconds tops. So it's not like hot. It's not warm. It's lukewarm. It's like room temperature. That's how I like it.
Wow.
Because if you heat it up too much in the microwave, it gets all soppy.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't like that soppy pizza. No.
I mean, yeah, you could use an actual oven to make it crispy and nice, but that takes too long.
That's why you got to plan your meals well in advance.
No, I refuse. By the way, Bob, when was long microwave invented?
The long microwave?
Yeah. Do you know about these? Have you heard about this?
No,
I haven't either.
No, it's just a term for when you see a listing for an apartment.
Oh, okay.
And they use whatever camera setting to make the place look bigger than it actually is.
Okay.
It stretches everything out, and so when you look at the kitchen, it makes the microwave super long.
They use the Puff Daddy video lens on the camera.
Yeah, basically.
See, that's funny. In the place I live in, you see it's in the wall. Like I didn't have to buy a new microwave when I moved here. I got a new one, and so
I wish I had one of those. The microwave takes up too much space on the counter. Honestly, I wish mine was stuck under the top.
Just gotta carve a hole into the wall and see what happens.
I've heard meanwhile, I've heard about in LA that you need to double check that a listing says it comes with a fridge, because if it doesn't say it comes with a fridge, that means you got to buy your own fridge.
What the hell?
I know, it's insane. Apparently this is a thing I've read as a warning, if you're thinking of moving to LA, know that you got to confirm that place has a fridge, or else you're buying yourself a fridge.
Well, we all know a fridge is a luxury, and poor people shouldn't have them.
Yeah, you're either getting a fridge or a cold wet sack to put your food
in. No cold or hot food.
No.
I heard that 99.7% of quote unquote poor households have a fridge.
Man,
not so poor are they?
Yeah, they need to show me the lack of their fridge to see if they get any kind of entitlements.
Keep your perishables on the windowsill. It'll be fine.
Every place should come with a fridge and a microwave.
I agree, at the very least.
Yes,
but anyway, yes.
we're in Roswell, walking down the street with Fry and Enos. We see some stores with fun names like Fedoras for Boys and the Hard Croon Cafe and Gill's Televisual Radios. People are watching a huge TV with a very small screen. I did some TV research as well.
Oh.
So commercially available televisions existed as early as 1929, but they were really taking off in the late 40s, and 1949 was an early peak year for television. So they could buy a TV around this time, but a few years later would be when everyone was getting TVs in their households. And of course, 50s was the TV decade, and 60s color TV and so on.
And all those people grew up TV. So
we turned out TV.
That Hard Croon Cafe sign, it reminded me too. I almost went to the Hard Rock Cafe when I went to Vegas, and also the Planet Hollywood. But I found out the Planet Hollywood, that in Vegas, it doesn't even have the giant naked Sylvester Stallone anymore.
What's the point?
Yeah.
What stopped you from going to the Hard Rock Cafe?
You know what? We decided we'd rather eat at this like chicken place that was closer. It was like, it's hot. Let's not walk all the way there. We had enough fun that day at Madame Tussauds, just standing next to wax figures.
I saw you pretending to use a piano.
That's right. Yeah, I was next to Liberace. Sadly, there was no Jim Neighbors there, but
The kids don't know who Jim Neighbors is anymore.
you know what? That was an underattended wax museum. It was not as hot as it used to be. I think they thought it was going to be a big, cool place, but it really is something to stand next to those wax figures. For just a moment, you actually do, like, if you see them out of your periphery, you're like, oh, a person. Oh, wait, no, it actually is a wax. Like, they are that convincing.
In every museum, one of them is a murderer, and you have to make sure you know which one is the murderer.
Were you up to your knees in the cast of MASH?
No, they did keep it very cool in there.
That's good.
Fortunately.
So Fry is happy that he got Enos off the dangerous army base. Enos wants to know if Fry has anything to eat in his lunchbox, which is Bender's head. So he pulls out some chips, and Bender goes, "Hey, that's my brain!" And Enos painfully chews and swallows these like sharp pieces of metal and claims, "They cut my mouth up something bad." So,
I love that. Them crackers. I love that. Yeah, that, I guess jokes like that and the licking raw chicken off of his fingers thing shows that Enos was likely to die soon enough anyway, and that Fry, he probably would have been dead within a year anyway. Fry isn't really helping it or killing him too fast.
No, he's very danger prone, but he does want to stop off for a malt, and they head to a malt shop with a non-funny name. I think it's just like Joe's Malts or something.
Though the sign is funny.
Yes, 1 teen to a malt. We all know those teens love sharing malts, and this is where Fry meets his grandma.
See that waitress there?
Yowza. I know what I want for dessert.
That's my fiancée, Mildred.
Grandma Mildred? No dessert, just coffee.
Okie doke. And for you, Snuggums?
I'll have a pie with a fried egg on top.
She sure is pretty. You ought to marry her and father some children right away.
Yeah, folks say that. But did you ever get the feeling you're only going with girls 'cause you're supposed to?
What? Don't ever say or think that again. Please, just concentrate on staying alive. Fire! Look out! Oh, you almost got neutered.
Well, tain't as bad as getting killed.
For me it is. I'm getting you out of here.
Ow!
You know, it does work great because, you know, Jim Neighbors is obviously very gay. I don't think he was out by 2001 when this aired. I don't think he was. I mean, but obviously gay, but it's also a threat to Fry's existence that not only is this man like dumb and danger prone, he's also like probably very, very gay. And he might not impregnate Fry's grandma if he follows these feelings.
I mean, I love that. It's one of my all-time favorite Futurama lines. Do you ever get the feeling you're only going with girls because you're supposed to? But also that Fry's reaction, Fry is not a homophobic character, but the situation throws him into being violently homophobic.
He just goes,
like,
what?
Don't ever think that again. Like, he's just telling him, like, and it makes it even sadder or tragic of a scene because Enos is like kind of coming out to a guy he just met, and here he's being screamed at, like, no, you're not gay. You're not. Like, it's just, and it also, I like that Mildred, her little kiss on his head, it makes it also feel, to me, she's written like the type of woman who in the 40s would have fallen in love with a closeted gay man. Like, she's this kind of sweet old lady. But I guess too, they establish that Fry is already attracted to his grandma, so setting the stage there, I suppose.
I mean, you have to think of like causality, and it's like, well, was Enos ever Fry's grandfather? If Fry was destined to be his own grandfather, Enos is just some random guy who's not part of the bloodline, I guess.
He's a gay guy that looks like him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also, do you want to talk about Yancey Fry and how that kind of doesn't make sense anymore after this?
I was also thinking that like it makes sense that Enos is Fry's grandfather initially because Fry's dad is like a Cold War vet, like he's like a military man, so it makes sense that like it runs in the family or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Though he says your grandfather was Yancey, my name's Yancey, your name's Yancey. It's like, well, no, your grandfather's name was Enos because that's what Fry knows. But
what if Enos was a nickname?
Yancey Enos Fry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, Enos could be his middle name. He goes by Enos.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that.
You know, Enos looking like Fry is kind of a cheat, but also it makes sense why Mildred would be into Fry because he looks like Enos.
That's right. But a hipper, straighter Enos. Yeah. I also, I choose the thing that I think Burns throws out in the commentary too, that I think that Fry is his own grandpa in this new timeline, but he comes from a timeline where he's not his own grandpa and Enos is, and that he creates life. Like he is from an alternate universe. He's stranded from an alternate timeline and creating life from there. That's my reasoning. For otherwise, they're like, well, where does his chromosome comes from if he just creates it himself? And it's a closed loop of a Y chromosome.
It's so complicated that they address it in a later episode, which I like.
Oh man, that one. I just think of that line of looking at Fry trying to eat that pineapple
on a string. Yeah,
that's my
so yes, I love when we see Mildred watching them leave. She's actually holding a cup of coffee and a pie with a fried egg on top.
Delicious.
So
I wonder. I now think with that look on her face, has she seen Enos run off with guys before, and she maybe has a feeling that this is not just innocent?
She has a premonition about something.
I was thinking that too because she looks sad.
Yeah,
when she watches them run off together.
She has a wistful sigh.
She's probably like, oh no, he's found another guy he's running off with, and I'm going to have to deprogram him again or whatever.
So Fry pulls up to an abandoned house, a suspiciously abandoned house in the middle of the desert with Enos. And they're now in the middle of nowhere, the safest part of nowhere. And Fry tells Enos to stay put and enjoy the pinup calendar. And I love the little acting here because Enos slowly lifts the July page to look at the sexy cowboy underneath the sexy lady pinup. And in my mind, I thought Fry like whapped the page down, but instead he just slowly pulls it down while looking at Enos like, no.
Oh, that glare. He's like, no.
It's very well timed.
Yeah, I love it. I love that shot so much. Again, it's like Fry being forced into homophobia just to try to exist. Like, it's such a funny thing. But again, I do just feel so so badly for Enos that in the world he's trapped in, he can't be gay. Like he even though he so innocently wants to be, and everyone is trying to stop him.
Well, he can't be alive either.
Yeah, that's true.
And Fry locks Enos inside, and I love this great Futurama line. Finally, I can continue to exist. And he drives out of these gates, and we see a sign that Fry didn't see that says atomic testing in progress. And scientists, all these guys are dead of leukemia in like 3 years, but they're all like too close to this explosion. They're lifting their binoculars to see a glorious mushroom cloud explode after this countdown. And I like how it cuts to Enos inside the house and he's looking at the cowboy, and then he just turns his head as the window lights up, and then we see it cuts to the outside, and then you see it's like the classic stock footage of like the test house is being blown apart. Yeah. That's what happens to Enos. He dies like instantly.
Poor, at least he got to enjoy looking at that sexy cowboy one last time.
He died doing what he loved.
The atomic bomb test was in that Deep Space Nine episode too.
That too.
That's how they got back to their present time.
Yeah, they had to fly through the blast.
Yeah, they had to use the energy of the atomic blast to get them back.
And that was the original ending to Back to the Future that they had to change.
That's right. Yeah.
But man, I love on that secret commentary track with the animators hearing about how hard Rough Draft Korea worked on that explosion. Like it's 2D and 3D stuff together, and like the slow mushroom cloud is like so great looking. It's not like a stock mushroom cloud. It feels like they drew their own to look specifically like an original version of it.
Yeah, it looks very good even 21 years later.
Yeah,
it's a great little effect.
There's only one bad 3D effect in this. It's when Fry gets to the military base and is looking at Enos talk to his commanding officer. The look at the flag in the background, like it looks bad. Like it really does just look like somebody squashing and stretching a PNG file.
I guess they realize like, SDTVs will be watching this, right? And like, well, no, not in the future.
Our SDTVs now look as silly as that tiny postage stamp size TV they were looking at in the episode.
True, but now they're in demand by retro gaming freaks who want a 300-pound TV in their living room, killing their families.
I don't care about recreating perfectly. Who cares?
Emulation is fine, people.
Yeah.
Though, for a photo shoot at one of the old game websites I worked at, they built a room to look like that, and it had the old TV. And for a second, sitting on this shitty old couch playing on that old TV, I was like, boy, this actually does feel pretty great to be. I do feel like I'm 10 again.
It looks cool. I just don't want it in my home. It's too much space.
No. Yeah, I lugged around a 300-pound TV for about a decade and like 6 moves, and I just wanted it away from me. It's like, why does a TV need 2 people to pick it up?
I love how light TVs are these days.
You can spin
light
them around
and
like
affordable.
Like they're pizzas. You can just flip them up and down in the air and snap them over your knee and buy a new one because they're so cheap.
When your 60-inch TV breaks, you just go like, well, I'm going to just buy a 70-inch one now. I'm not fixing this thing. Yeah, though you know what? When we someday in the future sell off Talking Simpsons to Fox or to Disney.
It'll be Disney.
Yeah, we sell it off to Disney and we live in McMansions. I'm going to dedicate a room to being my 80s childhood room. That's gonna be
I'll have a 90s room.
Okay. We can hop decades when we visit each other's houses.
Exactly.
You know, I like even skipping the TV altogether and just projecting stuff on my wall. Saves even more space.
But then you got to clean your wall all the time.
What?
Yeah.
What are you putting on your walls? What the hell?
You got to clean all that blood off.
These walls are filthy in here. Let's move on.
It's in my. I project stuff in my bedroom. Nothing goes in there.
No, that
food,
does sound
no blood.
cool. Yeah, then it's almost like having a Murphy bed, except for your TV. That you can have the wall blank all the time. Yeah.
No posters though.
Nope.
Unless you want them to interact with the movies.
I'm sure once Bob and I are living together, we'll have like an actual projector screen that we can pull down.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, I want one of those.
So now we're in Act 3. We're back at Joe's Cafe. Farnsworth and Leela are in a booth. Mildred is taking their order. We get some Soylent Green jokes because the professor wants Soylent Green, a slice of Soylent Orange, and some Soylent coleslaw.
Everything Soylent for old Farnsworth. He loves it.
Leela has to remind him it's the 20th century, so Professor orders a variety of food, including a croque monsieur, the paella, 2 mutton pills, and a stein of mead. And Leela just wants a small injection of Femislim, so I feel bad for Leela. She can't actually eat food.
Oh, poor Leela.
Do you guys still have those meads from Disenchantment?
You know, I drank the last of them when I watched the new season of Disenchantment.
I still have my Lucy one, and we're having it while you're here.
Okay.
We may get...
Isn't it super strong?
We may have botulism. No, it's like 12% alcohol.
One of them knocked me down, but I have lower tolerance than
But you got
guys.
up again.
Yeah, I did.
They're never going to keep you down.
Then I had a whiskey drink and a vodka drink.
He was thumping that tub, people, all the time.
TMI.
Mildred is very confused by this. Also, now Soylent is a thing you can buy if you're a weird tech guy.
Really?
Soylent is just like the pouch of like flavor mush, right?
Yeah, it tastes like pancake batter, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is another one of those things where a depressing futurist vision now turns into a thing you just sell to people.
Yeah, it's instead of enjoying like one of the 3 like base human instincts, I can just suck on a sludge pouch and keep coding.
It's more efficient. You just get the nutrients.
Yes.
That's all you need.
Man, I miss Ball's energy drinks. I prefer that vision of the future.
Have you seen Soylent Green?
I've only seen clips. I've never watched the whole thing. I gotta watch it sometime.
I haven't seen it.
I saw it. It's not worth it. I don't think.
I didn't think so.
You know the twist. You've probably seen the ending. That's all you need. But watch the last 20 minutes.
See, now that I did, I at least watched the last 10 minutes because at least the Old Man and the Lisa and other episodes of Simpsons parodied it. So I was like, all right, I should just see this original version.
Just watch the Phil Hartman SNL sketch.
That's good too.
Yeah.
Soylent cow pies are people. So moving on, Mildred is confused. She's just like, 2 chili dogs coming up. And Leela reminds the professor, are you Sonic the Hedgehog? What's going on here? Chili dogs.
No, I actually don't even love chili dogs that much.
See, stop stealing Sonic Valor over here. So Leela reminds the professor they're stuck here if they can't get a microwave, and the professor says, oh Lord, we'll have to endure the horrible music of the Big Bopper and then the terrible tragedy of his death.
He's right. Big Bopper, his songs are not half as good as Richie Valens or Buddy Holly's. He was just lucky for his legacy. He was lucky to have died alongside with them, that everybody remembers him equal to
his
them.
act was just a musical phone call.
Yes,
it's like a one-sided phone call.
A horny man on the phone with a girl who wears Chantilly lace.
I just know him from that one Simpsons joke.
Yes.
Great.
Goodbye, baby.
I don't know what his music sounds like at all.
You've never heard it out?
No.
There's a funny, like very, very tiny joke in the movie Walk Hard where I believe John Ennis is playing a Big Bopper type and they show part of his act and the phone call goes on for too long.
That's right. Yeah.
Or like the phone call is breaking up or something, but it's very funny.
He's seriously just like answering the phone?
No, but it's sort of like the Bob Newhart act, but musically it's like, hello, baby. And then he's like talking to someone you can't hear. And that's like,
okay.
The song is mostly like talk singing, right?
This is a Big Bopper speaking.
Yeah,
exactly.
What?
Oh, will I? What? Oh, baby, you know what I like. Yeah, that's a song.
Well, phones were fairly new at the time, or at least becoming popular. It's one of those phone rock songs we heard so much about.
See, and again, if he wasn't in such a rush to get on that airplane and just taking the long drive with that other guy, we'd have heard so many more Big Bopper songs into the 60s.
We all saw the Kids in the Hall sketch. They let the monkey fly the plane, and that's why it crashed.
That's right.
Yeah.
My buddy fucking Holly. We talked about like the big animation choices in this episode. I like some of the small ones too. I love this little moment where they're just at this impasse and Leela's just kind of errantly playing with the salt shaker and she looks out the window. It's just like a nice little observational touch, like how she's playing with it, you know?
Yeah, I love that little absent-mindedness. And I also really... Cohen shouted this out, and I didn't notice it until he did. But the diner tabletop, the design on it, so great. It's like, Starfield kind of deal to
that
it.
weird like Star Trek insignia you see on the weird like that kind of 40s style graphic design. It's like little shapes and like stars and dots and things like that. I don't know. You'll have to see it. There's got to be a name for that.
There was also an interesting thing.
Art Lady, what's the name of it?
I don't know.
Okay.
There was also an interesting thing I heard Rich Moore mention on his commentary too, that he said that, and I noted it most of the time, but I didn't see any time where this is untrue, but he says, when something against progress or the past or a bad thing happens, it happens to the screen left. And if something good happens or they go closer to the future, it happens screen right. And it is true, like say in this scene, when Leela notices the dish, she is looking to screen right to see it. So that was just a really interesting little touch that Rich Moore kept in there as director. That's why he's an Oscar winner.
It's nice subliminal storytelling.
Yeah.
So she sees the microwave dish outside. She says they have to steal it, but the professor is still into this idea of like, no, we must preserve the past. And then this is when Fry breaks the news that he did not preserve the past in any way.
Well, I killed my grandfather.
What?
Wait, if you killed your grandfather, why do you still exist?
I don't know. Maybe God loves me.
Killed? In an atomic blast? No, sir. I'm afraid I don't take much solace in the fact that the implosion trigger functioned perfectly.
There. If it makes you feel any better, his body was vaporized, so there's no chance of him coming back as a zombie.
I'm not worried about that.
Then you're a braver woman than I.
You remind me of Venus. Would you mind walking me home?
How far is it?
So
that's a great delivery by Billy.
How far is it? Yeah. Very heartless. Rich Moore, as a fun small detail, not intended by the writers. This is him doing it. He stuck a picture of the Empire State Building up by the payphone to imply like, oh, Mildred has some interest in New York and that's why she moves there and that's why Fry's family is there.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I never
like
noticed it too.
A very small black and white photo. You can barely see it when she's on the phone with the general or whatever.
Yeah, I never even questioned why Fry's grandparents would be in Roswell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when he ends up in New York.
I guess what happens is Mildred is left pregnant by this guy Fry, who vanishes the next morning, and then she just tells everybody that her fiance Enos got her pregnant, and then that's the lie that goes on to Yancey Fry, the man who is Fry's son, who will raise Fry, and join the military after the grandfather he thought he had.
It's getting complicated.
Yeah, but you can see that she's grieving. But I'm glad, a grosser show would have had a joke that Fry thinks that a grieving woman will be easy to convince to have sex with. But how far is it? Shows he's not planning to take advantage of a grieving woman.
And he's not fully convinced that he will still exist, He thinks he's about to stop existing.
I also do love Bender's laugh at the idea that God loves him.
Maybe God loves me.
Yeah.
So this is when a sea ration plan lands at the Army base. They wheel out this giant crate, and President Truman busts out of this box of canned eggs.
Love it.
That's wheeled down the ramp.
Just his arms exploding out of it. Yeah.
And I looked up this on on the internet. It's a fun little tool, folks. You should use it, by the way. C rations are specifically wet, canned combat rations. So canned eggs would count as C rations.
Totally makes sense. Wow, that is some deep stuff. I guess I didn't really need Cohen to clarify this on the commentary, but he said he credits a lot of the old-timey talk of Truman to Oakley and Weinstein.
Yeah, they were freshly off of Mission Hill and working on these last 2 seasons, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When we were watching that Deep Space Nine, the military general played by Charles Napier, he called Truman that piano-playing Democrat, which I did not understand.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, of course, he would have contempt for a Democrat in the White House.
Piano playing.
But piano playing.
Yeah, I didn't know this about Truman. I
don't know.
All the facts about Truman is he beat Dewey. Nobody thought he would take over as vice president, and that he dropped the bomb. Like those are all the biggest Truman facts I know.
I was hoping that Truman would show up in that Star Trek episode.
Me too.
He kept calling on the phone, but you never actually see Truman himself.
I was hoping he would burst out of a crate of eggs.
But this is the good thing about animation. Like, you don't need to hire someone who looks like Truman. You just draw him in.
Even though that was like a high concept Star Trek episode, it was still like, we're gonna stay in this one room for most of the entire
they had like a tiny set.
Yeah.
Was that Deep Space Nine episode before or after the Forrest Gump style time travel app where they went back to the old episode of the original series, the Tribbles episode?
Oh, it was before.
Okay, all right. That
it was
one,
season 4. This one.
In that one, they use all the. I remember that time travel one because they use all these Forrest Gump technology to like basically film them into scenes from the Tribbles episode.
That's got to look pretty rough.
It looks really good.
Oh, really?
It looks really good. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, they covered it on We Hate Movies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
On Nexus.
I forgot about
and
that.
they liked it too. It's one of like the all-time best episodes.
It's a great, funny episode. I love that they're there with Worf and they see that the Klingons in the original series look nothing like Worf as a Klingon.
Yeah.
And they ask him like, "Hey, those guys are Klingons," and he's like, "We don't talk about it."
Wow.
But yeah, it is a. If you go to Memory Alpha, the super duper Star Trek wiki, there's a very in-depth reasoning about why Klingons went from looking that way and then 80 years later look like Worf with the head ridges.
They got the forehead wrinkling surgery.
Bob, have you seen what Klingons used to look like in the original show?
What's wrong with them?
They just look like stereotypical Asians.
Oh,
Yes,
is it like white guys with Scotch tape, like pulling their eyes back?
Well, they kind of the Fu Manchu
Okay,
mustache.
yeah. I can see why they changed that.
And instead of forehead ridges, it's like they just drew eyeliner onto their foreheads, kind of.
And like if you look at like Worf, even he kind of has like that mustache.
Fu Manchu
still.
kind of thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Truman is meeting with all of these military folks. This is a top secret visit. No one has to know about this except for senior officers, scientists, and one single conspiracy nut who no one will believe.
Love that.
And this conspiracy guy laughs, takes a picture. We see the result. It's a blurry photo of 6 lights in a dark sky. This might be based on a real photo, but I looked up like UFO photos or whatever, and this did not come up. But I assume it's supposed to look like one of the many blurry, indecipherable UFO pictures you've seen in the past.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a photo like that before, but maybe you're right. Maybe it is meant to be a generic blurry UFO photo.
I feel, as photo technology has improved, I think that too is why we don't get as many of these alien sighting things. Like I'm stealing a joke from a person I forget on Twitter, but the joke was, we all have phones all the time now, and nobody finds aliens or Sasquatches or anything.
Ghosts.
All they get is filming the police murdering people. That's all you get when everyone has a phone.
That's the only horrible phenomenon we can capture.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, it seems Harry S. Truman played the piano. He released several albums.
What?
And he refused to play piano with Nixon.
Oh, wow. He's got principles.
Man, how do you like that?
Well, he did commit a humongous war crimes, so...
Yeah, that's true. But what president hasn't?
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, these were kind of famous, though.
No, I know. It's actually pretty horrifying. It's pretty horrible. I do not want to make light of it.
Does Biden play an instrument?
I'm sure he plays the spoons if he gets some whiskey into him.
No, he's a dry drunk, man. He doesn't drink nothing.
He's dry in so many ways.
He's a very dry man. No, he plays the ice cream cone and loves driving a fast car.
Once he finishes eating ice cream with a spoon, he starts playing them.
Yeah. Mr. President, please. So a tank rolls by this military hangar. The commanders tell Truman their experts have reassembled the alien ship parts to its original design, and we see that Bender's parts were crafted into this UFO. A trap door drops open, a beer bottle spills out and breaks on the floor, and this is when Truman says, "Whistling Dixie, I want this at the Area 51 for study," and they tell him that's where they're building the set to fake the moon landing. He says, well, then we'll really have to land on the moon, invent NASA, and tell them to get off their fannies. So
that's a great line. That's NASA was officially founded in 1958, but its precursor did exist in the late 40s, which, maybe was run by some Nazis or former Nazi scientists. But
Operation Paperclip. It brought so many great people to our nation.
Again, I know all this information from the X-Files because they used all of this stuff.
Do we no longer care about putting people on the moon?
Doesn't seem like it.
It hasn't happened in a long time.
I mean, when NASA really cut back on it, and there's that International Space Station but it's half owned by the Russians, so I think that's a little iffy now too. So yeah,
technology is so good these days; they could easily fake it.
No, yeah. But why even bother? I guess it doesn't even interest people anymore if they did go to the moon.
It was only to prove we were better than one country, and it doesn't matter anymore. So
no more space race.
No.
It's great that the space race was. No, it's who gets to the moon first is the winner. Every other first that Russia did before us, that doesn't count in the scoreboard. It's only who got to the moon first.
And then we can just let the country fall apart. We won.
I guess it's we're supposed to expect that the private sector is going to go to the moon and then Mars.
Well, we have Jeff Bezos with his suborbital launch.
Yeah,
boring.
These guys can't get anywhere. I believe
Elon Musk, take care of your 13 children and stop trying to get to Mars. There's still child support on Mars. I'm sorry.
Yes. Again, here's another joke I'll steal from Twitter. The people said that the reason these guys want to invent all their rockets is because it's really hard to sexually harass people and get away with it on Earth these days. So that's why they gotta do the sexual harassment in space.
In our next clip here, Truman meets Zoidberg.
If you come in peace, surrender or be destroyed. If you're here to make war, we surrender.
Both good. The important thing is I'm meeting new people.
Bourgeois, now what's your mission? Are you planning to make some kind of alien-human hybrid?
Are you coming on to me?
Hot crackers, I take exception to that.
I'm not hearing a no.
Dirts to this space crab. If we want information, we'll have to do us an old-fashioned alien autopsy.
Hooray!
Talk about space sexual harassment. Here he is, Zoidberg propositioning the president. I just love his I'm not hearing a no. Zoidberg will have sex with him.
He likes older bald men. We saw him sucking on the professor's head in the Atlanta episode, right?
Yes, yeah. Though that was after he had some pheromone sprayed on him.
Right.
It's I'm so into you right now. Yes, yeah.
I guess in that case, he needed an invitation.
But hot crackers and nerds, that's both a great couple of phrases there by old Harry Truman. And also he's if you declare war, we surrender.
It's that simple.
I also love that he calls for an old-fashioned alien autopsy, even though this is the first. It's not the first alien autopsy, apparently. It's an old-fashioned one that they've been doing for a long time. Man, it's I just love Zoidberg is so desperate for any contact. Even the getting an autopsy, he's hooray!
He's involved with he's making new friends, he's meeting new people. They might cut him open while he's alive. It's actually a vivisection, not an autopsy, because he's not dead.
That's true. Yeah, he's. You know what, Zoidberg too. They say on the commentary they cut more scenes with Zoidberg in the interrogation, but there's not on the deleted scenes.
Yeah, it's just the one.
Yeah.
So we're getting to it, folks. Here's our next clip.
Here we go.
In which Fry does have sex with his own grandmother.
I know how you feel. My grandfather died recently.
It's all so sad. At times like this, I just need someone to hold me. You like holding me, don't you?
Hey, you know what always cheers you up? Baking me a nice tray of sugar cookies.
How about these cookies, sugar?
Yeah. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't even exist. But I do exist, which proves you can't really be my grandma.
There you have it, folks.
There it is. Yeah.
You went over one of my favorite jokes in the episode where she says, every little thing reminds you of Enos. And she has a framed photo of a mushroom cloud for some reason.
Did the army send that to her?
That's great.
Yeah.
Man.
And in the background, another Richard Moore touch, he put the 10 Commandments in her living room because Fry breaks every one of them in this episode, or almost every one of them.
Yeah, he kills, he has sex with the family member. Yeah, I guess... look, Fry is a freak for this, but he's a stupid idiot who thinks she's no longer his grandma. And then on top of that, he probably hasn't had sex in a while. And also he is drinking whiskey, so, and he's not fully. He's not making the right decisions here.
And he's convinced that that's not his grandmother.
Yeah.
He's fully convinced.
I also do love the design on her very 40s giant bra.
Yeah,
when she
the bullet
whips 'em
bra.
out. Yes, yeah. That's a good one. But
if Marty was convinced Lorraine wasn't his actual mother, he probably would have went for it.
I think he would have. Well, I mean, too, that's like, it's just the Oedipus complex thing coming through, I suppose. Or what's the line that Jay Sherman says? We want to have sex with our mothers,
but not grandmothers.
Yes,
Futurama is advancing it.
It's true. Yeah, they're taking it to the net level beyond that. And it's also that her name is Mildred. Like that, he's still
a classic old lady name too. They chose a good one. So we cut to the morning. The paperboy throws a newspaper on the porch. We see the headline is "Crackpot photographs Truman again," and it's his blurry photo of like the UFO lights.
This is also one of my favorite cuts in the series too, because you have Fry being made out with, and then the time cut, and then to really reinforce how effed up it is, they have like the happy music, like do 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 do, like to start the next scene, and for the reveal of them all glaring at him from the window in disgust.
I like how it takes them a while to react. They're like waiting for someone to call action to finally react, but they're all like peering in. They all are making their disgust very well known. They knock on the window. They wake Fry up. Farnsworth wants to know what the hell he's done. And Fry says, "Relax, she can't be my grandmother. I figured it all out." And this is where Fry learns the shocking truth in our next clip here.
Of course she's your grandmother, you perverted dope. Look!
Come back to bed, dearie.
It's impossible. I mean, if she's my grandmother, who's my grandfather?
Isn't it obvious? You are.
Did you say something, dearie? I'm a bit hard of hearing.
Commencing excavation of the subject's chest cavity.
And in this corner, Zoidberg! Come on, lighten up! What is this, a funeral?
Heart.
Take, I've got 4 of them.
Stomach contents, 1 deviled egg.
Deviled egg?
The same deviled egg.
There you go. Yes, and I remember watching this live in the year 2001, right after 9/11, and this was genuinely surprising and shocking in a fun comedic way. Like I was like, "Oh, I can't! It's 7 p.m. Number one. This is 7 p.m. on a Sunday," and I was like, "This is a new kind of joke," and I'm happy to be here for it to witness it. So. Yes, I was very proud of what the show had become at this point. And yeah, I wish that was one of those things that you could just like wipe from your memory and watch again, because it really was just like the best comedic surprise.
I like how the proof that she is his grandmother is that she acts like his grandmother.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no like DNA proof that Farnsworth brings up or anything like that. It's like, look, she's acting like a grandma.
She ages up like 50 years to like bake sugar cookies and have like a listening horn in her ear.
Yeah.
So great, yeah.
And Farnsworth should be upset because that means he's also a product of inbreeding.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's so far removed that I don't think it affects him much, but still.
Man, yeah. Well, you know how it is. You go to bed with Madonna, you wake up with a grandma. That's how it goes.
Is that how it works?
Is that what they say?
No. But no, I love that Mildred, I guess just through being impregnated, she has now become a grandmother and just acts like one. I also love Fry's desperate head shake when he's asked, like, isn't it obvious? He's like the little head nod, like, no.
He doesn't want to believe it. Yeah. Well, I also like this because it is applying like a very high concept explanation of a low culture, pop culture thing, and that's the song "I'm My Own Grandpa." So they took that song and they're like, how do we take a plot out of this? Like, how do we make a sci-fi plot out of this? And they did. So this song is from 1947. 1 billion people have covered it, including Tom Arnold in the movie The Stupids. He performs this song, "I'm My Own Grandpa."
Okay.
A movie nobody saw. And also, this was performed on The Muppet Show by somebody, I forget. But yeah, Ray Stevens covered it. Willie Nelson covered it. And here is a clip from the 1947 novelty song, "I'm My Own Grandpa."
Now many, many years ago when I was 23, I was married to a widder who was pretty as could be. This widder had a grown-up daughter who had hair of red. My father fell in love with her and soon they two were wed. This made my dad my son-in-law and changed my very life. My daughter was my mother 'cause she was my father's wife.
So it's like 4 minutes of this explanation as to how you can be your own grandpa. But yeah, it's Futurama applying a high concept sci-fi premise to explain this rotten novelty song from the 40s that everyone has covered. And there you have it.
And it came out the year this episode takes place in.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
1947.
amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that. Wow.
Man, I have a good memory for Muppet songs. I do not remember that one though. That's a classic. I love that.
That's twisted.
Yeah, everyone go out and rent the Stupids. It's got to be like on Tubi or Mubi or Roku. I'm going to keep saying syllables until I figure this out.
Oh yeah, I see why I don't remember. It was just it was sung by the Gogalala Jubilee Jug Band, meaning so it's just a bunch of like the colorful weirdos, like not any of the memorable Muppets.
It was made to denigrate the sons of the soil.
It is also that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
So yeah, that's explaining that reference. So yeah, I'm my own grandpa. They're just referencing that classic piece of pop culture, goofy pop culture.
I also do love Zoidberg eating that egg over and over again. He just constantly, and also that you can take anything out of Zoidberg and it won't kill him. Apparently, he's just full of organs.
They just throw them at the president later.
Oh, that's so great.
And he swallows all his food.
Yes,
like a duck.
Just straight. Yeah.
I like the hard cut to back on the ship, and Leela's just slapping the hell out of Fry. Like, snap out of it. I think she's also slapping him because she's disgusted. You know, there's some violence behind that.
Well, at least he's been screaming since between the two scenes, like nonstop, because he is, at least he didn't gouge his own eyes out like a King Oedipus Rex. But basically, it's the same kind of insanity he's been pushed to.
And this is when Farnsworth is done with the Prime Directive. Let's get the hell out of here, is what he says.
Yeah, I love that.
And then,
screw history.
Yeah, Fry protests. He's like, "Oh, a lesson in changing history for Mr. I'm my own grandpa."
That's a great line.
So yeah, with a mighty screw history, the ship takes off. It just fires a rocket. That's where the title of the episode is written. It has a Zoidberg version of the Kilroy character.
Right. I didn't catch that. I just love the cute little thing that's written on there. I mean, yes, this also feels like the Treehouse 5 Homer time travel thing, because there's just something hilarious to me of a character going like, don't touch anything. I'll touch anything I feel like. He just throws caution to the wind and just says, I don't care anymore. Consequences be damned. I just want to smash everything.
Yeah, that's basically the premise of Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
Doc goes screw history.
Yeah, I want to make this work for me. I've already extended my life in the future. Let's get an old bride from the past.
And that's so smart in that movie that he saves a woman who was going to die anyway, so he doesn't change the life of somebody who already existed. It was a dead woman.
Underrated movie, Back to the Future Part 3.
Yeah, and also, I don't understand why this happened, but it's so weird how in that movie, his grandfather looks like Marty, but then the grandmother looks like Lorraine.
Well, the screenwriter explains all the men in the family are attracted to women who look like Lorraine.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's in their blood.
Yeah. Also, Leah Thompson, she needed something to do in that movie.
Yeah.
Hey, Leah Thompson is sexy no matter what decade you're in.
Yeah. If she's kissing a duck or if she's some Irish lady.
Man, that movie really gave me appreciation for just gun tricks. Like, that's a special effect. No, that's levitating stuff or time travel. It's just seeing Tom Wilson spin a gun around on his revolver around and then stick it in his holster.
He's also underrated. He carries a lot of those movies.
Oh yeah.
So this is a big action montage. Not a lot of.
This feels like a movie.
Yeah,
it really does.
The conspiracy nut sees this the ship taking off, firing lasers at barrels, blowing things apart. He screams, "UFO! UFO!" We see his picture, and it's the famous surgeon's photograph of the Loch Ness Monster from 1934.
Yes, which, Bob, you listeners have heard me already tell Bob about this on the Little Mermaid podcast, but I've recently been alerted to the theory of Nessie equals whale penis story.
Oh, right, that's right.
That if you use that the people on ships who thought they saw sea monsters probably just saw the giant 16-foot long blue whale's penis popping out of the water.
Oh my god.
Yes,
why was it sticking out of the water?
What
was it doing?
Well, they were excited and they're just showing off, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it is. Yeah, a whale penis in excited is quite big.
Hey, we've all been there in the bathtub.
You know, if you want to see a big bird penis, look at an ostrich.
Oh, really? I didn't know this.
Some birds have
It's out there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some birds have prehensile penises.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
I thought it was all cloacas everywhere, man.
No.
A few lucky birds.
Look up ostrich penis.
Yeah.
You'll see it.
Well, maybe some other day.
All of our listeners, do it now. We put it in your head. So we're back at the alien vivisection. One scientist is sawing something inside of Zoidberg. He's like, no, I need that to speak. And they look at each other and then start sawing quicker. Like, no, shut him up.
I also love that they're wearing their, protective suits, but Truman's just like, next to that, I'm going to stand here in my regular outfit. It's so great.
I love how much Fry and Leela are violating the past because they just like drop in jetpacks.
Yes.
Leela is like karate kicking the scientists. And he even gets kicked by Leela's mighty boots, Truman.
Yeah, that Truman went through the rest of his life having seen aliens in jetpacks flinging him around. I also just love that he says, it's a reference to Perry White's Great Caesar's Ghost and old Superman stuff, but he says Great Roosevelt's Ghost.
Because he just died, right?
Yes, yeah.
So Fry's pulling organs out of Zoidberg, throwing them at the president, sir. And Zoidberg, the president is gagging on my glass bladder. What an honor. Gas bladder.
And I also like that Fry kind of smiles back at him, too, that he agrees, like, that is an honor. I'm happy for you.
And Farnsworth is saving Bender with his, like, hover recliner where he blasts through the wall, but he's also asleep. And he has to wake up to realize what he's doing. And he picks up Bender's body by like reclining the chair and lifting it with his feet.
I think it was them realizing like they're like, oh, Farnsworth looks too cool here. We got to have him be like unconscious when he enters the room and not meant to have looked cool.
And soldiers open fire on the ship as it lowers this magnet to grab the dish. It rips the roof off as well. That's when we see the Sergeant Carter style guy about to tuck into his toilet lunch. And he goes, Enos! And Fry says, he's dead, sorry.
I almost wanted to see that Sergeant more in the death of Enos. He's like, oh, I didn't hate him after all. I actually love the little guy. I'm so sad
there was no time for an Enos funeral in this jam-packed episode. So yeah, this is all action. The fighter pilots are pursuing the ship. The bullets are bouncing off of the ship's hull. It dives into this hangar, do some barnstorming, but instead of going through the hangar, it goes up out of the hangar.
That's so great that it can move in three-dimensional space that a regular airplane can't do. Like, it's such a cool, just sci-fi chase thing. Like, it's just an exciting chase.
And they're in the bottom of the ship looking out at the shrinking Earth below. Farnsworth says, choke on that, causality. And Bender screams, 1947 can kiss my shiny metal. And then he falls out into the ground below. So he falls back down into Roswell.
His head by itself, just like Data's head that's left back in Mark Twain times to then be discovered in the future again to complete Time's arrow in that season 5 to season 6 two-parter, which is also when they meet Guinan in the past too, who was friends with Mark Twain.
I have not seen this one.
It's a great one. I remember seeing it live, and between the summer, like, man, how are they going to get out of this one? They had so many great season finale cliffhangers on TNG.
I've been showing Bob episodes of Star Trek here and there lately. That one it's a two-parter, so it's a bit too long to show before this recording, though.
Look, I wouldn't put it in a top 10.
It's okay.
But it's a good one. Yeah, it's especially because Data's one of my all-time favorite characters. I love something about this analytical robot man really speaks to me.
Well, Fry, they have to go to the future now. Fry mournfully cries out Bender's name as they travel back to their 31st century home. And we're back at Planet Express. Zoidberg is freshly duct taping his vivisection wounds. And he says, good as new. And Leela holds up an organ asking, don't you need this one? And he feigns death and then pops up and says, gotcha. I like his little claw grabs when he goes, gotcha.
I love his death act out is so funny. And I also love the animation on Leela just tossing the thing behind her like this jokester. I hate him.
It's probably like a gallbladder or an appendix or something he doesn't need. Or one of his 4 hearts.
Yeah, it's heart number 2.
Usually, the joke by this point is like Zoidberg is poor and lonely, but Zoidberg having like weird organs and like weird biology was like the first Zoidberg joke, along with him being a bad doctor. So they're going back to some older stuff, which is fun because there's they discovered the poor and lonely trait later.
I love seeing Zoidberg torn apart, especially because he feels no pain and is not sad about it. He's just like, oh yeah, rip everything out of me. I don't care.
But in our final clip here, it is time to rescue Bender.
Oh, poor Bender. He must be so lonely right now. trapped 1,000 years in the past. Hey, wait a second.
Anything?
No. Wait!
Oh, stupid jerk!
He's alive!
Whee!
Bender, what was it like lying in that hole for 1,000 years?
I was enjoying it until you guys showed up.
Well, now everything is back as it was. And if history doesn't care that our degenerate friend Fry is his own grandfather, then who are we to judge?
Amen.
So Nina and I came to the same conclusion about this Bender plot that's not related to Star Trek. Nina,
Yes.
what did this remind us of?
Well, I want to know if Henry can figure this out. We were both reminded of a certain JRPG that has something similar to this.
Well, that's Chrono Trigger,
Yes.
then, isn't it? Yeah, it's what happens to Robo.
Robo is left behind 400 years in the past in order to help propagate some land.
Yeah,
so it
to
becomes
grow
a forest.
this forest. So you turn the desert into a forest, and then as soon as you drop him off, you immediately just go to the year 1000 and get him, and he's all like rusted and he's shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that. That it is a lot like that.
This is not as noble of a thing, obviously.
I also love that Bender doesn't care. Like, he actually wasn't lonely at all. He loved being alone for 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's probably pretty easy to pass the time when you're a robot. You can shut yourself off or decades or centuries.
I also, think about this for another time F, is that Bender and Fry's bodies were both frozen in time from the year 2000 to 2999.
Wow, I never thought of that. Okay.
So
cool.
They have something in common now.
But I also do love the line of and if history doesn't care that our degenerate friend Fry is his own grandfather, then who are we to judge? That's just how they move on from it. They're like, you know what? We all know you're your own grandpa, but let's just forget about it. Let's move on with our life.
But then it turns out this has an effect.
Yes.
A profound effect.
Which I love that. That's why Nibbler picked him out, because of his time anomaly brain gives him the no brain waves, or the specific missing type of brain waves.
This very dirty plot twist based on a corny old novelty song informs the first episode of the series.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to pitch this to Matt Groening for the new series, that let's say Fry and his family go on vacation to Roswell when he's a teen. Young Fry meets Bender's head. They have an adventure, but they both lose their memories at the end. That could be a plot. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah. And then he has to rebury his head out there. Yeah, I like that idea. That's a fun story.
Yes, I'm going to pitch it. I'm just going to tweet at David Cohen's not on Twitter, Matt Groening's not on Twitter. So I'll find somebody.
I'm friends with Twitter friends with one of the new Futurama writers. Maybe I can pass along to him.
I'm working on my spec script now.
I don't know. I'm wondering if this was touched on by Futurama comics at all.
I guess we should ask Ian.
Ian, yeah. I feel like this is one of the things where he'd watch this episode and think, wait a minute, this means Bender's head was in the past. I could do something with that.
There's quite a few Futurama comics to go through.
That does sound like something clever that a great comic writer like Ian Boothby would come up with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we are actually on our way to a Weird Al concert, all of us together, so we have to wrap up here. But yes, I'm glad to have Nina on this episode. Maybe I'll eat my words later, but I feel like this is the best episode of this era, and probably by that metric, the best episode of Futurama. Prove us wrong, new Hulu series. Prove us wrong. Can you outdo this? I doubt it.
The late Philip J. Fry actually is high up on my list as well. I really do love it's time travel plus the sadness and the emotion, but just the action and the adventure of this, and that it's also it feels like them finally choosing to do something they put off doing for forever made it extra special, the only negative I'd say on it is if this was movie length, then they would have had time for Amy and Hermes to get some plot stuff in here. Unfortunately, they didn't get invited to the supernova, and so they miss out on the big adventure.
Any final thoughts, Nina?
I like Star Trek a lot. I'm glad we talked about Star Trek.
Yes,
on this.
I'm glad I watched some more of it. I mainly know it through the We Hate Movies side podcast.
Yeah, listen to the Nexus on their Patreon.
Yes. Hey, wait, we've got a Patreon, but people listening are already part of that. But
That's
you know
true,
what?
yeah.
If you like giving to Patreons, We Hate Movies has got a great Patreon. I'm a patron.
Yeah, you
And also, I like the gayest episode on this.
Yeah. I'm now. I didn't want to listen to it because I feared stealing from any of their thoughts. But yeah, I'm gonna listen to it now. I really did love their one. I enjoy all their ones. Their one on Gomer Pyle is a great episode.
Yes.
as well.
If you want to know more, I mean, we just gave a few facts. If you want to know more about like his life as a closeted gay man up until like his later years and how that affected his career in Hollywood. Great episode for that. And also you can learn more about Gomer Pyle and how that episode is eerily similar to Bart the Lover in a way we'll talk about in probably like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah. Boy, it's coming up sooner than I thought.
It is, yes.
We're getting through season 3 pretty quick.
Basically, there are no new ideas. Everything's been done.
Yeah.
But don't rip us off. Unless you're Go Bayside, which is what I took the idea from this TV show podcast from.
That was what we ripped off first.
But yes, thank you, April Richardson. And
Yeah.
we'll see you guys next month for Godfellas. See you then.
Mr. President, our experts have reassembled the parts from the alien ship into its original design.
Whistling Dixie. I want this sent to Area 51 for study.
But, sir, that's where we're building the fake moon landing set.
Then we'll have to really land on the moon. Invent NASA and tell them to get off their fannies.